the Preseen case study of Ican examination. So this class is reaching you via a collaborative effort of the finance business partners and the accounting job hub. These are two communities who want their student members or their community members who are writing the upcoming Ican case study examination to do well and flourish, as they would soon become chartered accountants or chartered accountants in the making. Let's put it that way. So the class would get started soonest, and in the course of the next 3 hours, our tutor, Mr. Qudus, would be taking us through a host of things regarding the Ican Preseen case study. We'll be taking us on how to effectively plan our report writing, financial performance analysis, ratios, commentary and others, business environmental analysis, both the internal and external business environmental analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunities, as well as the pestle analysis, that's the political, economic, social and cultural, technological, and legal environment. We would also be taking us on how to leverage our professional skepticism and judgment on business case scenarios. So our host or our tutor for this evening will be joining us soon. He is not with us presently due to some circumstances, so he will be with us soon. Before he comes, please let's endeavor to mute our mics so that we would all get the highest benefit from this class. Welcome once again to this evening's class. So we are expecting our tutor, Mr. Qudus. He will be with us shortly. So while we wait for him, I don't know if there's anyone in the house that is preparing for the case study examination. You can just volunteer and tell us your preparation or your preparative level so far, what you've been doing and your expectation from this class. Anyone can volunteer to tell us this, please. Okay, so just as I said earlier, the accounting job hub community and the finance business partners are two different communities who have actually collaborated to make sure that this class comes to reality, with Mr. Qudus taking us through the case study, the Ican case study Preseen, just to prepare us or our community members who are writing the exam so we can all do well. So anyone who is actually preparing for the said exam can actually tell us his or her preparatory level and what he or she expects from this class, please, instead of keeping the whole place mute. One person should volunteer for us, please. It's actually a class and not a session, so let's be interactive. Okay, so while I'm waiting for someone to speak to us, so the Ican case study over the years has been a cause of worry to many prospective chartered accountants or Ican students who feel the paper is actually difficult and has a lot of problems, even with the Preseen and every other strategy that Ican uses to ensure that students pass the examination. So it's our hope that this class, or at the end of this class, we all would be acquainted with what to do or what is being expected of us in the Ican case study examination. The hope of this class, or why this class has come to be, is to make sure that our students who are actually preparing for these exams do well. And at the end of this diet, by God's grace, when the result comes out, we will have as many chartered accountants as possible. So let's just hold on a bit while Mr. Qudus joins us and we commence the class in earnest. Mr. Qudus, good evening and welcome on board. Mr. Qudus, you are on mute, please. I don't know if it's deliberate.
No, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening and welcome on board.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening.
I want to thank you for this opportunity. We actually appreciate the gesture of you sharing your knowledge with us to prepare us for this Ican case study examination. God bless you richly, sir.
Man, thank you very much, and you too. So can we let me know once we can get to it, and we are all set.
We can get the class started.
Okay, makes sense. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I trust we are having a great weekend. I want to believe that almost everybody on the call is currently preparing for the Ican case study exam. And what I'm here to do today is just to not to give us a specific or a cast in stone way to get our job done in the exam, but to give us an idea that I believe that if you are able to follow through, it should help with your exam. And trust me, this is a tested and trusted idea. So just to give a bit of background about me, I started my Ican exam even with my national diploma in accounting. I started from ATS 3 and moved to skills level in one sitting. And then I got to final, and case study is one of the papers that I first failed in my final when I wrote my final in 2018. So I did 3 diets. I did 4 diets. ATS 3, skills level, I cleared my paper once, and final I did twice. I wrote 5 papers, failed 3, passed 2. Though something happened, but then I think even aside from what happened, right, one of the reasons why I felt I failed the case study exam was because of the fact that I followed the crowd. Yeah, let me just put it that way. I follow the crowd. And when I say I follow the crowd, what do I mean? I mean, I spend my time just preparing for what I want to write instead of preparing for what I actually need to know how to write. So I spend the whole of the time preparing for what I actually want to write, which is around financial ratios, how to explain financial ratios, how to explain SWOT analysis, but never really spent time knowing how to actually get the job done when it comes to getting the job done in the exam hall. And that is exactly what I want to share with us in this class. I'm not sharing solution with us on how to write the Preseen exactly, but I'm telling us that I have a format that you can use that I am very sure, trust me, if you follow it, even if you don't fully utilize your 4 hours in the exam, or there are chances, like high chances that you're going to pass. High chances, very, very high chances. And what's the solution to the case study exam? What's the solution to the case study exams that many students actually fail to pass? One of the reasons why many students fail to pass the case study exam is simply because of the fact that they follow the crowd most times. They follow the crowd on ensuring that when you get your paper, you write. But that's not the case. The case study exam is actually not to test just how well you can write or how well you can analyze ratios, but to test a combination of skills. How well you can think, how well you can write, how well you can structure your thoughts, how well you can use judgment, how well you can use professional skepticism, and how well you can work with limited information at the same time. And that's what we are going to be doing here today. So I'll share my screen and we'll get to work immediately. Yeah. Okay, let me know once we can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, so we'll just get to work, right? I've taken this class before. For those of us who attended the first class, I'm sure we gained some values, and I'm pretty sure this class too will be very insightful. I'm pretty sure. Why? Because it's something that I've tried as much as possible to make easy and to the point. Yeah, so the case study exam is a 4 hours paper. The 4-hour paper that includes we being able to exercise some sort of professional skills, and in terms of business skills, and in terms of financial analysis skills. Aside from that, what we are going to be looking at is basically how to plan for the exam. I said, what we are going to be looking at today is basically how to plan for the exam. I'm not sure the scope of the exam has changed. While I was writing the exam in 2018, it is 4 hours paper, a 4-hour paper that includes 1 hour for your reading, 1 hour for your planning, and then 2 hours for your writing. Is that still the same? Is that still the way we have it? Can we confirm?
Yes, still the same.
Makes sense. Makes sense. You know, the mistake that many of us usually make is once we get our paper, we just want to go into writing, and we forgot why they have put 1 hour for planning, 1 hour for reading. We just want to get into writing. And that's one of the mistakes that many people will still make if they don't have the necessary information on how to actually tackle the case study exam. And I want to mention here today that to pass the case study exam, the best techniques that you can do or that you can use is to plan. Planning is the answer to the case study exam. Planning is the answer to the case study exam. It's not just how well you can write, but how well you can plan and also execute your plan. I repeat, how well you can plan and also what? Execute your plan. And that's what we are going to be doing in today's class. For any exam, for you to be able to pass any exam, you need to understand the requirements. What exactly is the requirement of this exam? What are the examiners actually looking at? Right? And that's what we are going to be doing here. So this is the Preseen version of the case study exam, and the examiners have actually given us an expo into what they are actually looking at. That if you are going to be writing this exam and you want to pass, this is what we require of you, and this is what we are going to be working with. So the examiners give us this and says assessment of the case study exam. That is, this is how the case study exam will be assessed. Your answer to the case study exam, this is how we are going to assess it. This is how we are going to assess it. And the assessment is what we are going to be working with. Just a quick one. Anyone who has the Preseen that can do some ratios for us, like gross profit margin, or that can do the trend analysis, please, let's try and help with some of the figures in terms of the ratios. I'll be glad if you can help with that, because we are going to be using it. Part of what we are going to be looking at is that. So I'll keep this. I'll keep this for us. So we'll always refer back to this guy. I'll keep this because this is what we are working with. Assessment to the case study exam or of the case study exam is saying that the marks in the case study examination are awarded for professional skills and are approximately allocated as follows. So it's not just how well you can do ratio. or how well you can write. And you spend your 2 or 3 hours writing, and then the only thing you are just writing about is the ratio. It's just the ratio. No any form of argument. It's just the ratio. It doesn't work. What they say is that, one, we want to see how well you are able to assimilate the information provided. Assimilating and using the information provided. How well are you able to assimilate we have given to you, and how well are you able to use those information in your writings? Many of the students make mistake such that we write out of context because we have been given a format in our professional training or in our classes, and then we just want to use it. And because of that, we write out of context. So, as much as possible, one of the things I want to take us through is how to ensure that in our writing, we use the information provided in the case study. And that is what is actually required of us. As much as possible, in all our writing, we must use the information provided. Even if you are going to define what a current ratio is, we must refer back to the case study using the information that has been provided to us. We'll get there. Structuring problems and solutions. So as much as possible, what this thing is telling us is that you must be able to argue within the course of your case study exam. You must be able to argue. And how do I mean you must be able to argue? That is, you must be able to see problem and say, this is the likely solution. Even if you have implemented this solution, this is another likely problem. That is, while you are reading your case study exam, you must be able to identify what problems are there in the case study scenario and what are the likely solutions given the case study, right? Applying judgments. This area of applying judgment comes with the fact that there are some things that will be ambiguous. There will be ambiguity in what you are doing, right? I've seen several answers online, and then I've seen the ambiguity where people say that if you have read the case study Preseen, you will have seen that there is the issue of credit, where the company that's BF now. Am I right? Coming. Where the company, BP, where the company BP says that it doesn't give credit, right? And some people are saying that it contradicts with the fact that the company has receivables, right? So those are ambiguities that you, as a professional, you must be able to apply judgment on. They said they don't give credit, and then at the same time, they are having receivables in their books. You, as a professional, you must be able to argue that this credit doesn't relate to what's it called? This credit doesn't relate to receivables or trade receivables. It can relate to other receivables. The fact that they have receivables still doesn't mean that they do what? They give or they sell on credit. You must be able to do what? Argue it. And your argument can still go as far as they've done audit, right? And if they've done audit, the auditor must have seen what? The financial statement. They did audit for 2018, they did audit for 2019, and they were receivables in both 2018 and 2019. That's to tell you that you need to argue. So if you want to argue that the statements are not correct, that is, they said they don't give credit, but they are having receivables, that means that there is something wrong. There are some form of inconsequential statements within what we have, the exhibit that we have. You can still argue in that manner too, that the company says that they don't give credit, but they have receivables. Which question, who are the auditors? Right? Because if they say they don't give, what's it called? They don't sell on credit and they are having receivables, and it relates to sales receivable, then there is an issue. Does it mean that we can't rely on the financial statements? So all of these things, trust me, what you want to do in the case study exam is you want to be able to free yourself, give different opinions, say this is this and that is that. Like, give two opinions and still be able to win. That's what you want to be able to do with the case study exam. Are we with me? Give two opinions and still be able to win. Say, if we are going to rely on the fact that the credit that they are talking about in that scenario is credit sales, then that means that there is a question of integrity of the auditor. Right? These are professional judgment and professional skepticism that they want you to apply as a professional student. You don't just pick one side and move on. Even if you are going to pick side, you must be able to argue your sides. You must be able to do what? Argue your sides. And these are some of the things that I will actually be giving us today. Drawing conclusions and making recommendations. From whatever you must have gone through within the case study, that is the scenario, you must be able to draw conclusions. You must be able to say, this is it. As per what I've read, as per what I understand of this thing, these are the conclusions. You must be able to draw conclusions. There is no gainsaying you writing from beginning to the end without making necessary conclusions. And conclusions here is what? Using judgment. And one of the things that we are still going to get there, but then as much as possible, I just want to give us some of the necessary orientations that we need before we start saying we are analyzing the case study itself. And these are the things that you actually need for you to succeed in the exam, such that by the time you see the full case study exam, you are still able to use all the information provided. So we mustn't focus on just solving the Preseen alone, but we must focus on understanding how to approach the Preseen and the full case study exam itself. And that is the reason why we are spending time explaining how they are going to assess this case study. So as much as possible. So I'm already giving us hints in terms of applying judgment. They said there's a credit. They don't give credit because they are not a bank. And then the financial statement is saying that they have trade and other receivables. So a judgment or a judgmental approach will be that you are going to decide that the trade and other receivable that they have in the financial statement is not a credit sales. It's not a trade receivable. That is, the receivables that they have on the financial statement is not a trade receivable. This can be what? Other receivables. Since they said that they don't give, and how are you going to now back this up is very necessary. They've done audits, and since they've done audits, the auditor must have done audits across their trade and other receivables, because these are the things that auditor will actually carry test on. Right. And since they've done audits, we must, and you know, when it comes to evidence, external evidence are the most reliable in terms of auditor. Auditor is an external person, and they've audited the company. That makes the financial statement reliable. So if the company says that they don't have trade receivables, then because they've done audits, we are going to believe them. If otherwise you want to argue that the company is lying, they say that they don't give credit, but they are having trade receivable, then you have to now bring and say, then this questions the integrity of the auditor. This questions the integrity of the auditors. You need to mention that. So by the time you mention this, see, case study is not about who is right, who is wrong. It's about who is able to exhibit professional skills. Who is able to do what? Exhibit professional skills. Who is able to argue points. You need to be able to argue your own point. Because this thing is something that if you bring 10 best students out that have written Ican case study in the past, and you sit them down to write this exam again, they will literally write different things. Though there will be some common grounds, but most of them will write different things. And they will still be right. Because of what? They've used their own professional judgment at some point. And they are able to back it up. That this is the reason why I'm going for this So you are able to argue, and from there, you are able to draw conclusions. They said you need to be able to make recommendations. All this making recommendations, drawing conclusions, you are still going to be referring back to what? To the case study scenario. Then they said demonstrating integrative and multidisciplinary skills. Demonstrating integrative and multidisciplinary skills. So as much as possible, this place is now talking about how well you are able to structure your report, how well you are able to bring different ideas, conceptualize them together, and then present them in a very meaningful manner. In a very meaningful manner. This is a case study exam. This is a purely business exam. It's meant to be a business exam where you are tested on how well you are able to think as a person, as a professional, right? Then the final one is presenting appropriate appendices. How well are you able to present your support documents? You've argued, right? You've made points, right? The next thing, how well are you able to do what? Provide support document for your argument. So yeah, so as much as possible, then the other part is ethical issues. They said ethical issues do not form a specific requirement, as this has been deemed to have been tested in other subjects of the Ican professional exam, but will be tested within the requirement. But will be tested within the requirements. What this place is telling us, ethical issues being tested, is because as much as possible, you must be able to, this is a business stuff. You must be able to apply your own professional skepticism to bring out ethical issues. And to bring out ethical issues, right? So let's just get to the point. So let's just get to the point. You are entering the Ican case study itself. So as much as possible, as we are working, right, what I would actually love us to ensure that we are doing is to bear in mind, are we following this stuff? Are we following all these things that I've listed here? Are we following them? Are we in line? So once you are able to identify how much you are following them, you just be jotting how well, where did we use the information, right? Where did we structure a problem and provide solution? How did we approach them? These are all the things that you need to be taking note of. Okay, we use information here. Okay, makes sense. We use this information, makes sense. And then how are we able to apply judgments? These are the things that you need to be following as you are moving on. So this is not to teach us the answer, to present an answer and move on, but to teach us on how to plan effectively and reason these things out, because that is what we are. By the time you see things in the exam that is not even within the case study, if you have crammed how to just answer this particular Preseen, it will put you off balance. So as much as possible, we don't want that. We want you to be able to use the information as best as you can, given a particular approach of planning, that is effective planning. And that's what we are going to be doing now. Right, I said something, right? So I'll be giving us, we'll be moving a bit fast. I'll be telling us what we need to know. Let's be jotting as much as we can. Basically, this is a class to teach us on how to plan, not to outrightly give us answers, to teach us on how to plan. Because the first time that I wrote my case study exam back then, I wrote a lot. Man, I wrote that almost 13 pages, and I still failed. And eventually, it was when I got out of the exam hall that it dawned to me that all my writings, everything that I wrote was just centered around analyzing ratios. It was just because I know how to analyze ratios. Like, I have strength in analyzing ratios. I was just busy analyzing ratios. Gross profit margin, I explain. Profitability margin, I explain. I was just busy. Efficiency ratio, explain. And before you know it, 4 hours is completed. That's lack of planning, poor planning. And according to what they've said here, they are going to split the assessment will be on different things. We are going to be assessed on different things. not just on how well you are able to analyze ratios. And these are the reasons why you must plan. You can't just go there and be explaining SWOT analysis because someone somewhere has given you the strengths, the weaknesses within the Preseen. And you just go there, you just think that you're a superstar, you're just writing on SWOT, 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 SWOT. And before you know it, you forgot to even mention anything on ratio. So what we want to do in this class is to ensure that you learn how to plan properly. And this planning is the approach that you are going to use to answer your questions or to address the case study exam, right? Now we move, and then we've spoken about this part, which is on how the case study exam is going to be assessed. Then the next thing is we move a little bit fast. See, they said candidates should note that marks are not awarded for just simply restating facts from the case studies, but marks are awarded for demonstrating professional skills and technical depth. Therefore, to succeed, candidates are required to show sufficient evidence of knowledge of the case scenario. What? Be able to carry out analysis of the issues involved and suggest visible solutions to the problems identified. So this is it. If you see that there is a problem that you don't know a solution to, ignore. Go and find another problem that you can easily explain. That's the case study scenario. Don't be adamant on doing it in one way. When you get to the exam hall and you see that things are looking, this is a drama, improvise. And how do you improvise? Is by planning. Once you plan, you'll be able to improvise efficiently. You improvise. Once you see that you don't know something, a part, go to the part that you know, that is clear to you. Discuss that part and move on. Don't sleep on it at the same time. Discuss that part and move on. So don't just state facts. You need to discuss. Somebody is now saying that the company says they don't give credit sales, but there is receivable in their financial statements, and you stop there. That's what is in the scenario now. That's what is in the case study. Almost everybody can see that. You saw that they say they don't give credit sales, and at the same time, you are seeing that they said they have receivables in their financial statement. You are now writing it down just like that, and you think you are going to get marks. No, you don't get marks for that. You need to be able to discuss what is the implication. What is the implication? So you need to be able to discuss and use your own professional judgment to say this. If they can have receivable in their books and they are stating that they don't give credits because they are not banks, that means that this kind of credit that they are talking about is not a trade credit or a credit sales. They don't give credit sales. And there is a chance that what is in their book is other receivables. Excuse me. What is in their books is what? Other receivables. To now buttress this fact, or to lay more emphasis on this, they've done audits. And if they've done audits, that means that their receivable or trade and other receivable balance must have been tested. And as such, the report is reliable. But if you want to argue in another manner, you say if they're saying that they don't sell on credit and they're having a trade receivable, then the independence of the auditor is questioned. When you say that, they know that you know what you're saying. You know the implications of what is happening. When the independence of the auditor is threatened, then that says the ethical issues will be that we are not sure if you can rely on the financial statement even when it has been audited, or we need to investigate who are their auditors before we can be able to rely on the financial statement. So these are arguments that will earn you points. Whatever RDBC is writing doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing with what Taiwo is writing. Taiwo can pick the first part saying that because they've done audit, they don't have trade receivables. It will be right. And then RDBC can pick the other receivables. We question the integrity of the auditor. So that in that way, you are not just stating facts. You are also you are commenting, you are suggesting solutions, or you are suggesting issues within the financial statement. right? Even within this thing, when you say that, you can tell them to provide you additional documents. That additional documents will be needed to ascertain probably a schedule to ascertain what the level of accuracy of the financial statement. You'll be correct, you'll be right, because this is a case study exam. It's not a one-way thing. It's opinion based and judgment based, as individuals are able to identify and address issues. So don't just follow the way somebody is doing it. Follow how well you are able to reason things out and drag it in the exam that way. You will be right. You will be right. I'm telling you, you will be right, because when you drag stuff, you support it with what you understand. You are right, because you are showing that you have the knowledge, which is something that is saying here. Shows some evidence of sufficient knowledge of the case scenario. You have to be able to show the knowledge. You can't just do as you are given, and then you go to the exam, or you are just writing. And then the next thing, you are not able to defend what you've written down so far. It doesn't add up that way. To move faster, the case study scenario usually will be given exhibits. So the first exhibit, or the list of exhibits we are having here, is that about us, who we are. We are Tunde Taiwo, employer of the chartered accountant firm, right? Employee of the chartered accountant firm. We are Tunde Taiwo. That means that we are probably an audit firm, right? Or a consultancy firm. The next one is we are given exhibits about the Nigerian fashion industry. The next one is we are given exhibits about the company itself, BP Fashions. Then we are given exhibits on the company's financial statements so far, 2018 to 2020, right? As you are reading this, you're supposed to have been thinking something. And this is some of the thoughts that should be running through your mind as you are reading this exhibit. Exhibit will tell you, if an exhibit is telling you who you are, it's telling you that indirectly, if you are this person, you should be capable of doing so and so things. That means there are already expectations of what you can do. Because they are already telling you who you are. That means there are expectations. So as soon as you start reading who you are, the exhibit 1, you should be thinking of the expectations of what you should be expecting to write on in the exam. The Nigerian fashion industry, they are telling you about the business environment. As soon as you are seeing information about the business environment, that means they are telling you that you are going to perform business analysis, environmental analysis. Because they are already giving you information on it. So you are going to perform them. They are not giving you information for fun. Then they are telling you information about what? About the BP Fashions, the company itself. That means that they are already revealing where you are going to get the strengths and weaknesses of the company. And for the Nigerian fashion industry, is already telling you that how you are going to do what? To get the threats and opportunities within the industry. Right? So, and according to this thing that they are talking about, if you are going, I saw 8 boxes, something, sometimes back. And then the 8 boxes mentioned something around how well you are able to use tools to answer. See, SWOT analysis is a business analytics tool. SWOT analysis and PESTEL at the same time. All these are external environmental analysis tools, right? So by the time they start giving you information about them, that means you need to do them. So we move. Now, we are given the financial statements. We'll get there. The first thing is about us. We have been told who we are. We said part of what we do, we prepare detailed financial analysis and reports on the performance of your business advisory clients. So, no story. We are already knowing that we have prepared financial analysis because they are already telling us that part of what we do from time to time. So come here. They said you are reporting to Dasuki Seidu, the partner in charge of the business advisory unit of the firm. Your responsibilities include, then they start listing our responsibility. If these are our responsibility from time to time, that means that they are sure that we are capable of doing those things. And if we are capable of doing those things, we must be able to also prove within the exam hall that we can do those things. Right? So that's that. We are going to be looking at financial analysis because we believe that we know how to get it done, since that's part of our responsibilities at our current place of work. Right? Then the next thing, they said analyzing your client's financial statement. So this first one is talking about how we are able to prepare detailed financial analysis. Murphy, please mute your mic. If you are not talking to us, please mute your mic. Murphy, please mute your mic. Or the admin should please help us to mute his mic. Thank you. Then they're saying analyzing your client's financial statement to identify area of weakness and profiling likely solutions to correct the anomalies. So that means that they're already telling us the things that is expected of us, because these are the things that are our responsibilities at our place of work. So if those are the things that are at our place of work, so indirectly, they're already giving us expo on what we need to do while we are writing the case study report. So even if you don't know what to do at some point, just go. Then start doing them. Then the next thing is saying that assessing operational and strategic business proposals submitted by clients. So there are chances that we'll be seeing something around business proposal within the same part of the case study exam. Can we still hear me? Because I feel like
we are with you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we are with you.
Okay. I hope I'm not breaking at any point in time. I just need to be very sure.
No, you are very clear.
Thank you for mentioning. I think it's my network. Apologies, I had network glitches, so I'm back. Can we hear me now? Is it better now?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes.
Okay.
Can hear you.
Okay, makes sense. So once you're done, just mute. Thank you. Just mute. Okay, so yeah. Then the next thing, we are already being told that we used to assess business proposals. So we should be expecting something around that, because that's the kind of thing that they say we used to do on a day-to-day basis, part of our responsibilities at where we work. So it is assumed that we know how to do these things because they are our responsibilities at where we work. Then also assessing clients' financial and business forecasts, right? That means that as much as possible, we should expect something around this area. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that who we are is going to give us a clue into what is expected of us in writing the report, in our reports. We need to be able to show that technical knowledge of some of these things. Let's just move faster. So now they've given us information around and now we are starting the case study proper. So as much as possible, we'll just be giving us, we'll be going back and forth. We probably can go back and come down. So yeah, number one rule, like I've said in my last class, when you get your paper, right? You've gotten your paper. Don't be in a hurry to write anything. Don't just be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry to do what? To write anything. The first thing you want to do is to prepare your reporting space. Prepare your reporting space. That is, just on your answer booklet, prepare where you want to report. Prepare yourself up. Set yourself up as per your reporting space. What do I mean by preparing yourself as per your reporting space? This is a form of planning. And how do I mean? I believe almost everybody knows about this thing that I'm showing us, where we have the table of contents. Almost everybody has these templates from our different tutorial centers. We are usually given this kind of table of content and blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying in essence is that all these are templates that I'm sure almost everyone on this platform already has. So this template is what you want to work with to prepare yourself up in terms of your what? Your area for workings, where you want to work. So we'll be doing it. We'll be doing the experiment. So this is it. This is our answer booklet. We have been given our answer booklet. I said, once you get your answer booklet, you are not writing. The first thing is to do what? Planning. We want to plan as efficient as possible. And in planning, the first thing we want to do when we say we are planning is to do what? To prepare our working space. Where do we want to work? Where do we want to write our report? Prepare your what? Your working space. This is our working space. Then we have formats that we have been given in terms of content, table of contents, where we write our table of content. So your working space should be like this front page is where I will write my table of contents. You just do content, then do the content in that first page that we are talking about. But that's page one. That's page one. Do your content. So content will usually include your executive summary, introduction and terms of reference, methodology and procedures, findings and observations. Where we are going to be working on in this class is findings and observations, because that's where most of the marks are. How we treat findings and observations. The rest are templates. It's something we can always form on our own because they are templates. But what is not templates and what is the real work is the what? Findings and observations. What were you able to find from the case study scenario? What did you observe? What are the solutions that you are proposing? Are there any technical issues or are there any ethical issues that you saw? Can you tell us those ethical issues? Can you tell us the mitigating factors for those ethical issues? Right? That's where we are going to base our class on. Then we have, under findings and observations, we have the need to do business analysis. If you remember this part, I told us, if you remember this part, I'm coming. They said who we are. Part of what we do, we usually do business analysis. So that means that in our findings and observations, and this is what you want to use to work, we do business analysis. So in doing business analysis, we have options. There are different options we can use for our business analysis. And one of the options is using SWOT analysis. Business analysis is typically telling us about how well the business is doing in terms of both internal factors and external factors. And the best tool that we can use, the most easiest tool to use, is SWOT analysis. That's the most easiest tool to use when you are performing business analysis, because you just want to identify strengths and weaknesses of the company. Right. So then the next thing is findings, financial statement analysis. That's talking about the combination of what? Trend analysis and ratio analysis. Then there can be other form of analysis which include capital restructuring, make or buy, buy or lease, blah, 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 all of those things, lease option and those things. We can have those ones too. Then under our findings and observations is where we have our ethical requirements in terms of talking about the ethical issues that we see. Then we have the conclusions and recommendations. Conclusion and what? Recommendations. Again, I'm not doing this to give us answers. I'm doing this to put us through how to think efficiently and how to approach the exam using effective and efficient planning method. or planning approach. It's about planning. Trust me. I said the first time when I wrote the exam, I wrote a lot. The second time, I didn't write as much and I passed. I passed really well. And I did not have to write as much. All I just do was to plan. And you know, when you are in the exam, before you know it, 4 hours, 2 hours is gone. Before you know it, 3 hours. Before you know it, man, 30 minutes to go. And you're already carried away, just doing ratios. So as much as possible, when you plan on what you want to answer, you touch, once you see that you are wasting time on ratio, leave ratio, go and address other things. And that's the best way to approach it, right? Then the next thing is appendices, where you present your SWOT analysis. Not necessary. This is not necessary. For the appendices, I would rather say more of how you present your trends and financial ratios, and how you do some other form of cash flow analysis and stuff. Then, so now, this is saying your cover page. Again, we started, and as we started, we are starting by planning, and that is the way we are going to do till we finish addressing the exam.
I think
planning. Are you talking to me, please? No, I want to assume no. So planning, I said, once you get your booklet, and you have your paper, you are ready to start, the first thing to do is to go and set your working space. Go and arrange your working space. Don't just go jump in and start writing or start reading. Arrange your working space. And when arranging your working space, there are some things that are like formats. Go and do them next. Go and fix the formatted areas. Arrange your working space. One, arrange your working space. Fix formatted areas. Arrange your working space. Fix formatted areas. What do I mean by fix formatted areas? What do I mean by that? You see, all of these ones that I'm showing us here, almost everybody knows that these things are formats that we have been given. How to write introduction and term of reference. Are there no formats to them? They are formats. All those ones are formats. And trust me, those formats, anyhow you write them, they are just formats. So when you see somebody write it this way, don't get yourself confused and write it another way. Or if you have another way you are used to writing yours, don't get yourself confused, because those ones, they are formats, and they are not actually what we want to test or analyze, but they are part of the report. Because this is a report writing that we are doing. We are meant to write a business report. And we are writing a business report. As much as possible, we need to ensure that our report is what? Structured. Our report must be structured as much as possible. So, because you have the format already, go and fix the formatted place. No story. You know that you need to do table of contents. You've gotten your books. Just come to the table of contents. Executive summary. Just start writing these ones. Introduction and what? Term of reference. The next thing, maybe 1.0. We used to do all this 1.0 something. Please don't mind the way I'm doing them, because 2.0 is methodology and what? Procedures. 3.0 is what? 3.0 is findings and observations. So, you know, you already prepare your table of content. See, these things are practical. These things are what happens in our day-to-day workspace, such that by then in our respective companies, those of us that are working well, by then our boss told us to go and prepare a report. Don't we usually give the front page, the slide one, which usually covers how the report is structured, which tells us about what to expect in the report. So that is what you are doing here. And those ones are usually formatted. So since they are formatted, you know what they are. And since you know what they are, what do? Go and fix them. And how do I mean go and fix them? So the first thing I said, arrange your workspace. Let's finish arranging our workspace before we start fixing anything. arrange your workspace. We have where we have our content, or table of contents. Then the next thing, I leave space. Leave a space that you know will be enough for your table of contents. We all know that these things are formatted, so just leave the space that will be enough for that part. Then the next thing, leave that space. The next thing is after our table content, we know we write executive summary. Leave enough space that we need for executive summary. The next thing, we know we have introduction and term of reference. Leave enough space that you know that will be enough. I'm saying again, these things are formatted because they are already formatted on how to write these things. And I believe almost every one of us, we have them with us. Irrespective of the format that you have, don't be shy. That format is just a format. And that is likely fine. Because those ones are not where the marks are. Where the marks are is about what you actually know, which is around observations and findings. How well are you able to present your argument? How well are you able to use professional judgment, professional skepticism? What are you able to identify in terms of ethical requirements, the financial ratios that you did? What is the accuracy and stuff like that? Those are where the main marks are. But these ones too, they are relevant, but they are not things that you need to argue with somebody that your own is the right one or the person's own is the wrong one or any of such, right? So fix them. The next thing is the methodology. You know how to do our methodology and procedures as well. I think they are also here. All those things are also here. This is the cover letter. I believe we have them. And then this is how to write executive summary. This is not executive summary for this particular case study, but an example. This is how to write executive summary. This report contains the strategic business analysis, blah, blah, blah. That's executive summary, which I believe that's just a format. Then the next thing, introduction and terms of reference, we refer to your email received on Kinikon. All those ones are still format. So fine, do those ones. Then the next thing is methodology and procedures, state specific tools used. Those ones are still format. Then findings and observations. This is where the work is. So, as I was saying, methodologies and procedures, we leave the space that will be enough for it. See, all these ones that I say they are formatted, leaving one page of your papers for them will not do you any harm and will not cause you to gain any extra marks. We all know how we have planned our own methodology and procedures. Let's try to write one before the exam date, before we go to the exam hall. Let's try to write at least all those format areas. Let's try to write those ones and see how much spaces we use to write those ones, right? So let's write those ones. Then the main part, which is where the main work is, which is findings and observations. This, you need to leave enough space. I repeat, you need to leave enough space for your findings and observations. You need to leave enough space. When I say enough space, a space that will be enough for you to argue, discuss financial ratios. Yeah, I will send the material to somebody now that I believe should be able. I've shared the material before, but I will share it with Oinda Mola again. Case study. So I'm sharing with Oinda Mola now, and I'm also sharing with somebody that I know, Balogun. So I've shared it with two admins of this platform. So yeah, that's sorted, right? So leave as much as. So I said number one thing that you want to do is to do what? Prepare your working space. Prepare where you want to work, where you want to have your report written out. Then the next thing, fix formatted areas. I'm literally shouting where I am. If you have earpiece, please use. Fix formatted areas, right? Subsequently, the next thing you want to do, let's assume that we fix formatted areas. We've left space that will be enough for our findings. We all know our strengths, how well we can write, No, please don't let them put off their cameras, because I'm also trying as much as possible to relate with it. Each time the camera freezes, I'm able to know that something is wrong with my network. So apologies for that. I'm able to also, and this is the reason why I'm using double screen. So I would like if some people are online with the cameras on, so that I can be able to relate with the expression that they are getting me or not. Please, I apologize for that, because this is the reason why I'm particularly using double screen, just to ensure that I'm able to see people's face, and I'm able to relate with how we are doing. Because sometimes the camera freezes, the people freezes, and I'm able to know that something is wrong with my network. So apologies for any inconvenience. So yeah, I said something. Findings and observations. Let's know. We all know how much we can write. Those of us that we can write, honestly, should the numbering start with executive summary as number one? Not really. Executive summary is just like an abstract. For those of us who write report very well, executive summary is abstract. So you don't need to necessarily number executive summary, but rather you can use the Roman figure style to number the executive summary. That's an abstract, so you don't necessarily need that to be number one. You can start asking our questions, but as much as possible, whichever one that I think is numbering compulsory, and not necessarily, but it gives a little bit of what's it called, structure to your report. Honestly, it's something that you don't necessarily need to number. Just write. When you are done writing and you see how well you write everything, go and start numbering. But if you plan well, you know how to number. Planning helps you to know what to number as what. So that shouldn't be an issue. Then the next thing is finding and observations. We've done all this executive summary. So then I'm not yet done. Then conclusions and recommendation or recommendations. No, it's conclusion. Let's just do conclusion and recommendations. We have prepared our workspace. I said number one thing when you get your paper is to do what? Prepare your workspace. Prepare your workspace. When you prepare your workspace, you are able to now start proper. That's number one set of planning you need to do. Prepare your workspace. Prepare your workspace. Number one set of planning. The number two thing you now need to do after you are done preparing your workspace. No, professional skepticism is not a subheading. It's something that you exercise. It's something that you do, you show within how you present. We are going to show it. It's something that you show within how you present. And that's where all this argument comes in. Professional skepticism is about how you are able to argue, how you are able to apply judgment and all of those things, and how you are able to question things particularly. How you are able to question things. Something like, if they are saying that they don't give credit, how come they are having receivables? That's professional skepticism. You are questioning them. You are questioning. But if you are questioning, it's not that you are going to say it the way I just said it now, but you are going to say it in a report-like format that you want to use in your own arguments that you already understand how you want to argue. Right? That's professional skepticism. That's that. Then the next thing is to now go and say, after you fix your formatted areas, so we've left the spaces. The next thing is to quickly come. Executive summaries. All of these ones are template based. They are formatted area. Just fixing your executive summary before you forget. Fixing your executive summary. This report includes blah, blah, blah. And then you just continue. Executive summary. Introduction and term of reference. We refer to your email. Yeah, so just fix those parts and move on. That's it. Just fix those parts and move on. Methodologies and procedures. Methodologies and procedures. We all know how to go about these two. This report uses so and so tools and assumed so and so things. And you just move on. Right? Fix those ones that are formatted areas. They are templates. You already have those templates. Fix them. Don't stress yourself. Just fix those ones. Once you are done fixing those ones, the next thing you want to do, you want to read. In fact, before you fix formatted areas, let me just assume that before you fix formatted areas, let's take a step backward and say, before you fix formatted areas, you ought to have read the case study. But because you have seen the Preseen, you can fix formatted areas without necessarily reading in the exam hall. Is that right? Do we agree with that? Anybody? Let's make it conversational. Do we agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So yeah, let's fix formatted areas. Once we are done fixing formatted areas, then let's go to reading and planning. This is where you will spend the next 2 hours. This is where we are going to spend the next 2 hours. We are not writing anything big deal. This is where we are going to spend the next 2 hours. So what do? We come back and start reading. Or in fact, before you fix formatted areas, why don't we read first? I'm just thinking. No. We refer to the email is not executive summary. That's in your term of reference, introduction. You need to introduce yourself and the time of reference of what you are doing. That's not executive summary. Executive summary is telling us what the report contains. What the report contains. That's what the executive summary is telling us, not we refer to your email. Yeah. So I think go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Qudus. Can I ask the question before you go further?
Please go ahead.
Okay. This you say after methodologies and procedures. So we just fix what is supposed to be there. Then we proceed to findings and observation, right? Then we
Yes.
So what exactly are we putting on findings and observation? Is it what we have read?
That's the main work. That's what we want to do now. We have not yet there. We are not yet there. That's what we want to do now. Findings and observations are where the main works are. That's where you tell us about what you've read in the report, how you perceive them, what problems you encounter, what solution you are going to suggest, and what have you. That's where the findings and observations come in. And then for somebody was asking something. Go ahead, briefly.
Pardon me, Mr. Qudus. I think the way the questions are being asked are really breaking your thoughts. I feel like some of those things that you are asking up front already are things that you still mentioned later on in the reports. I think people can just note their questions so that you can ask later in case you don't eventually make reference to those things that they have. For instance, you're trying to see something and someone is asking the question, you have to break. You most likely won't go back to what you were going to say before. So I feel like it's better people note their questions and then maybe for a particular time in the session where you cannot address those questions. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think I will agree with you, sir. I will agree with you. Thank you very much for that suggestion. So let's try to keep the question on hold for now. Probably in the next 30 minutes. I'll give room for questions. Let's just try to keep it on hold for now. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so let's move a little bit faster. And I'm thinking we need to change something. And this is the way you work as a professional. This is what the case study is also requiring of you. Case study is not a one-size-fits all. It's you being able to plan and improvise. By the time you go to the exam and you see the full case study and you are not seeing anything, you are seeing new things that you don't even have an idea of before now, but you understand the grammar that they are saying, right? How do you address them? So I'm thinking, should we not read first before we fix formatted areas? I think we should read first before we fix formatted areas, since we don't have all the case studies now. So I think we should read first. Or what do we think?
It's better. So
We should read
I
first.
think it's better we read first so as to have an idea and
Good.
we know what to
Good.
put down.
Good. I agree with you, sir. Thank you very much. So I'm changing the way we work. I'm going back to from fixed formatted areas. I will do after preparing our working space, we do reading 2 hours. So we are reading. The reason why I said fixed formatted areas before was so that we don't forget. But I think it's better we just know how to go about with fixing formatted areas in terms of our templates. Now, within the next 30 minutes, we want to do something that is expected of us into hours. Reading and planning. This is very essential. It is very, very essential. Don't just go to the exam hall and start writing. Right? Let's read. Let's read. Let's now go to the case study and read the case study. What's it saying? Again, we started from the exhibit. We've explained the implications of the exhibit that we have. What are the necessary things we can see with the exhibit? We've explained them. Then the next thing is that they are telling us about ourselves and what we can do. They've told us what we can do and who we are. These are part of the things that should be guiding our thoughts on what we want to do in section 3. Because section 3 is where we have the what? Findings and observations. Because this is who we are. That is the main assignment. Right? And then in the case study itself, in fact, as you are reading, the first thing you want to go and do after you started reading, go and look out for what is the requirement. Seek the case study requirements times 2. The requirements will usually be 2 requirements. We usually have 2 requirements to discuss the financial analysis and business analysis. In fact, it can be more than 2, but usually it is 2. The last part will be in terms of whether the business combination, the buy or sell, and what view, the strategic financial analysis part. Whoa. And this is. Sorry, I just had light out. I was even planning to on the gen before they restored the light. Sorry. Okay, so I think we can continue now. Yeah, okay. So yeah, as I've said, they've told us who we are, right? They've told us who we are and what we are capable of doing. And that's what we are going to be working with now. Everybody knows who we are now. So the first thing, I said something here. I was saying something here that seek the requirements. The requirements will always be 2 requirements: performing financial analysis and business analysis. And then some sort of evaluations that we will likely meet in the exam hall, which is usually like the 3rd part. But we will give the space for it too. We will give allowance for it. I'm trying to change my network. We already know what is required of us, that we are meant to perform financial analysis. The next thing is to decide what kind of analysis do we want to perform. What ratio analysis, what do we want to do? Let's decide. But before we decide, we need to read. So we start reading. I think okay, I think I need to quickly take a break, like 2 minutes. I need to fix my second screen. So do I have 2 minutes just to quickly fix my second screen, please? Thank you. So no, may I pass more t-shirt. Okay, so I'm back. I just need to quickly change my position. Yeah, so we are getting to the job proper, and then it is around identifying we want to start with planning, like I've said. So now what we want to do now is to get to job. Let's get to the job. I said something. I mentioned that once we start reading, let's seek what the requirements are. There will usually be two requirements. We are going to perform financial analysis and we are going to perform business analysis. Then, as we are reading, let's start deciding which analysis do we want to perform, what ratios do we want to perform. We all know that we need to do ethical issues. We need to identify ethical issues and what have you. So the first thing I used to do, or the first thing I would advise anybody to do, go to the last part of your booklet and have your jotting areas. Go and have your what? Jotting areas. You know, you've done your working areas. Now, you need to have your jottings area, which is more or less like the planning area. So this will be at the back of your answer booklet. What do you want to do here is because, so part of the requirement is already telling you that you need to do business analysis. Business analysis. You need to decide what business analytics tool, what business analysis, environmental analysis tool are you using, Pestel or SWOT? The easiest one to go with is SWOT, because that one will usually have both the internal and external factors, including the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats, right? Pestel is good as well, but Pestel is longer. You need to identify a list of different factors such that if you are not able to see one particular factors, it becomes an issue. So why not just generalize every external factors to be under opportunity and threat instead of having to categorize them as political factor, technological factor, and what have you, right? So what we do now is to say our decision here is to use SWOT, our business analysis. So we are using SWOT. The way I usually write them is this. I write it this
Sorry,
way.
Mr. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Before we go on to use SWOT, I want to suggest that we look at the case as in the Preseen, coupled with the old what's it called? The information given from the information given from the newspaper as published. I think we have more of global issues, industrial issues, government legislation, coupled with some MDAs and other things. So, which for me is suggesting the use of Pestel to be more applicable based on those information from other materials as suggested by the Preseen. So that I just wanted to point out.
Yeah, I love the way you've pointed it out, sir. Very, very accurate. But, so there are two things. Just like I have said, this is not cast in stone, right? The way I've said it is such that I understand that Pestel is more broad. And Pestel is most likely looking at external environmental factors, which is actually broader than SWOT. Pestel warrants that you classify as anything that is political, you have to classify it as political. Anything that is legal, you have to classify it as legal. Anything that is economical, you have to classify it as the same. If by chance you mix them up, then there is an issue. If by chance you mix them up, like you bring something that is supposed to be a legal into socio-cultural or something, or you bring something that is supposed to be economical into legal, then there is an issue. So to now close that gaps of making such mistakes, of saying, because Pestel is actually very accurate. If I'm asked as well, we also discussed it in our last class that Pestel is accurate, but it is broader, and it can easily get people messed up. It can easily get people messed up. And this is not the time to actually be teaching Pestel how to identify social factor, how to identify technological factor, or how to identify legislative factors. In fact, when we were doing it in the last class, because we have been given we have been given the Nigerian business industry, which is Nigerian fashion industry, right? I said this thing is talking about environmental analysis. No. Okay, will extra mark be awarded for using both Pestle and SWOT if they are done? No, there's nothing like extra mark. It is what you are able to argue within your work being done. Like I've said, this is the overall assessment, just like we've seen in the Preseen. This is the overall assessment. And if this is the overall assessment, the tool that you use will not matter as long as you present your argument in the best of approach. I stand to be corrected either way though. However, I agree that you can use Pestel, but in my opinion, whatever you want to put as political, whatever you want to put as social factor, whatever you want to put as technological factor, whatever you want to put as economical factor, whatever you want to put as legal factor, trust me, they will fall comfortably between threats and opportunities. And that is why Pestel is like the most commonly used business environmental tool. Because if you know that you will struggle to classify between social factor, economic factor, government factor, just bring all of those things and come and classify them, whether they are opportunities or whether they are what? Threats. What do you think, sir? Will threats and opportunities address those things that are external factors?
Yes, we are good to go. Let's just move on.
So I agree with you. Anybody that knows Pestel very well should attempt Pestel. But however, as much as possible, once you know that you will struggle with identifying a particular factor within the Pestel, then do not attempt it. Though we can do both in this class. We can do both since it's not just one person that is doing it. So we do both for those of us who might want to attempt both. So in doing both, these are usually what I would do. I will do Pestel too. This is the way I will usually listen. Yes, now there is a business analysis that we need to do. The requirement we always covers that because you are evaluating the business. And when you are evaluating a business, you need to evaluate business based on financial performance and business analysis performance. How well is the industry saying? And how well is the company doing within the industry? So we need to do those things, even if they are not outrightly required, of which they will be required. So let's move on. So as I was saying, let's start reading. As we are reading, what we want to do is to let our readings guide what we are going to use, whether SWOT or Pestel. Right? So I will just assume that we should use both for this class sake, while you can decide which one is convenient for you to make use of while you are writing your exam. Now let's move. So we have the Nigerian fashion industry. That's the second exhibit we are given. When we are given this exhibit, you should know that being given this exhibit means that you need to be able to identify external business environmental factors. And that is why Mr. Ayomide was suggesting that we use PESTEL, because PESTEL speaks broadly more on the external business environmental factors. So now let's read. Though I've highlighted where I've read it before, I know where we need to move to. So we will not be reading verbatim. I'll just try as much as possible to explain and pick what we need. The first thing you need to do when you get there, read through everything. Read through all the cases. It's not a compulsory if not stated in the requirements. I don't understand what that's supposed to mean, honestly. But yeah, let's just move on. Let's read through all the cases, everything we are given. First thing, first time reading. You need to do a first time reading before you come back and read again in order to aid your planning. The first time reading will be around how you are able to quickly grab some things, just like skimming through, or you want to scan through. Let's say you just want to scan through what's happening. So I've scanned through before, so I probably will not need to scan through again, or let's just scan through. We are given this guy, we are told about the growth within the industry. This place is telling us about the industry as a whole. We are being told about the growth within the industry and what is facilitating those growths. Then we are being told here about the challenges within the fashion industry and what are the things or those things that are causing the challenges. Then we move on to the BP Fashions history, the company history itself, the company boards and the company boards, and then the shareholders shareholding, the company's business model, then the company's business strategy, then the key risks that the company is currently facing. Then we are given the company's financial data. As soon as we are given the company's financial data, we glance through, okay, 2020 is not audited. As soon as we saw that 2020 is not audited, what pops to our mind? Anybody? What pops to mind?
All right. I think it might mean, okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Now the figures cannot be too reliable.
Yeah, reliability of the figures, reliability of the numbers, professional issues, reliability of the numbers. Please mute your mic, Stephen. Thank you. Reliability of the numbers. All these things are part of issues that we need to talk about. Right? So we move on. Since we have quickly scanned through, now let's do the job. While you are scanning through, you'll have noticed some things. And that's what you'll be forming your judgment. Okay, you've noticed that we are given the financial statement of the company. You've noticed that we are given the history of the company, the company's business model, the risk that the companies are facing. In my mind, as I'm reading through, I'm already calculating SWOT analysis. I'm already thinking SWOT. I'm already thinking PESTEL. I'm already thinking how to identify the PESTEL issues, the SWOT issues. Now, part of the things that we will likely do, we will be required to do some things. So let's do. The first thing we need to do is to read the Nigerian fashion industry. We are told about the fashion industry that clothing, sorry, mute your mic, please. Or send a chat. Please just send a chat because, if it is very urgent, please just send a chat because in the next, let's say by 4:45, we'll stop to take questions if that's fine, please. So we are being told about these particular industries. Then they said many of the component culture of Nigerian Western are unique to their tribal. Nigeria is also known for its fashionable textile and garment, but also gain international recognitions. So this is a key bit that we need to highlight. It's a point we need to highlight. So we need to identify those points we want to work with. We already know that we are going to do financial analysis because we have been given financial data and we've been told part of who we are, part of what we do at our workplace. We analyze financial data as well. So as much as possible, as we are starting, we need to decide what financial analysis are we doing. So from my last class, I'm saying that we are doing, let's do So you need to decide the financial analysis you want to do, because these are part of the key requirements. And I'm saying we need to do ratios. We all know we need to do ratios. So let's do profitability ratios. We do don't do excessive ratios. Just do the ones that you can do that addresses the main point of the topic of the day. Let's do profitability ratios. We can do 3 of that. Liquidity ratio, 2 of that. Efficiency ratio, 2 of that. And gearing ratio, 1 of that. A total of 8 ratios we are going to compute. And that's sufficient. We don't need to do 10 ratios. We just need to pick ratios according to their classes, the one that we are comfortable with, and we do. Or not necessarily the one we are comfortable with, but the ones that are also relevant to the case study. So I've decided here that under profitability ratio, we are going to do return on capital employed, gross profit margin, and return on equity. Then under under liquidity ratio, we are going to do current ratio and asset pest ratio. Then under efficiency ratio, we are going to do asset turnover and inventory turnover. Then under gearing, you do debt to equity. You need to decide what ratios do you want to do. You need to decide the ratios you want to do. And the good thing about deciding the ratios you want to do is so that you can be able to easily use the information to address your point when you are analyzing your ratios. Right? So we go back. Part of the things that they said here is Nigeria is known not only for its fashionable textiles and garments, but also for its fashion designers who have increasingly gained international recognition. We've started the work. If we've gained international recognition, or if our international recognition increases over the period, what does that supposed to mean? What does that supposed to mean? Anybody? He said Nigeria is known not only for its fashionable textiles and garments, but also for its fashion designers who have increasingly gained international recognition. What is this speaking to? Let's start using the information. We started. We need to start. So as you are planning, you are using the information as well. You are using the information. So, and this is the reason why I said we need to plan first. As you are saying these things, you highlight it. As you highlight the guy, you need to quickly bring the summary at the back of your notes. You need to bring the summary to the back of your booklet and jot it down. What do you want to use it for? You need to decide. What am I using this thing for? Anybody, what are you going to use this thing for if you are saying it? They said the fashion design.
I think it's going to be.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I think it will form part of our introduction. I think.
Well, it can, but it's still not picking. It's not catching it. This is talking about the fashion industry. The fashion industry. This is an industry discussion. And if it is an industry discussion, I would rather take it to Pestel. I can take it to Pestel and use it to explain my business analysis. These are environmental opportunities. These are opportunities. Exactly. An opportunity for growth. Thank you, Churchill. It's an opportunity for growth. Because they are saying that our industry as per Nigeria has gained international recognition. That's an opportunity for growth. So, in that case, we take it and go and add it as part of our opportunities. I come here, I said increasing international recognition. I can say where did I get it from? I got it from page 4, paragraph 1. Page 4, paragraph 1. So that by the time I want to start writing and I come back here, I can just quickly go and pick it. Go to page 4. I don't need to start reading through again. Just go to page 4. Go and look at the paragraph 1 and then just pick it up and use it where it is appropriate. Where is it appropriate? Whenever I'm discussing the opportunities that is available within that industry, it is appropriate to use. So I use it. Right? So these are part. So somebody said it's a strength. It's not a strength because this is talking about external business environment. Strength will usually be gotten inside the organization. And that is why when we said that we should use pastel, I agree. You can use pastel. So where are you going to use pastel in this part of the whole thing? Who can guess where this thing will fall after pastel? Who's guessing? Where will it fall?
It will form part of the environment now. Yes.
Out of these factors, this is political, this is economical, this is social factor, this is technological factor, and this last is, I've forgotten, and then this is legal factor.
It will fall under socio-cultural
factor. Economic growth. Growth should be under economy.
God bless you. Economic. So we bring it. If you want to use pastel, you can bring it and say you have identified some of the things that you use to address the economical factors. That's if you want to use pastel.
If you fall under environmental, the last thing. Yeah.
Environmental.
The last thing is environmental.
Thank you very much. I just forgot. Okay, that's what Mr. What's his name? That's what he was trying to tell me. Environmental factor. Thank you very much. Yeah. So he is saying that it will fall under environmental. Somebody else says that it will fall under economic. You see, one of the reasons why I never subscribe to using pastel in the first instance, because you can easily mix them up and then there will be room for arguments. So it's not just because it is growth, but environmental factor is our government is saying not only for its fashionable textiles and garments, so it's addressing it to Nigeria as an environment, as a country. So rather, it is not just a form of growth on its own, but what? As a result of Nigeria as an environment. So rather, instead of putting it in here, I would rather bring it to this second E. But that's one of the issues that pastel has. This classification issues.
Hello?
Please go ahead.
Mr. Qudus, I tend to,
go ahead, bro.
I bother to disagree with that, actually. So we talking economy, and it says that because if we're looking at it from the part of environment, we're looking at it from the part of, say, okay, is it degrading to the environment? Does it contribute to a global? I think these are the issues that borders and falls under environmental. But if it increases the way they perceive the economy of Nigeria, I think it falls under.
Okay, sorry, please, before you go on, Akonde, before you go on. So I'll just take the back seat. Let's quickly argue this for like 2 minutes. Yeah, I'll take the back seat on this particular issue.
Okay, so, if that's the case, I will want to suggest that.
Let's try to analyze it, please. Let me just control this, please. Just raise your hand if you want to say something, please.
I just want to say something. I'm talking already, sir. The first step, the political and the legal and this other one, economical rather, they are more connected to the government and what the government can influence. This environmental factor now to be the trend of business, what the private entity can produce. So it doesn't have to be linked to the government. Example now, the government might bring probably some laws or some rules in now that will affect the economy of Nigeria, which will affect or later affect these places. Those ones you can classify them under economy. But this one now should be under environmental because it has nothing to do with the government.
So I think there is a mix-up. Sorry. Sorry to cut you short. I think there is a mix-up. It is not environmental, but ecological. So if it is ecological, then this can't fly. So it will rather be suitable for economic and that's what Joshua was trying to explain, talking about global warming and what view. So if it is ecological, then it can't fly. It's about international trade, cross-border transactions. Okay, I said I will take the back seat. Akonde, you are trying to say something. Please go ahead. Akonde, are you here?
It's more. What I'm saying is that it affects the economy, of Nigerian government, because if there's increasing international recognition, by the time you look at the long run, it's going to affect the revenue, the GDP of the country. So it affects the economy more than they're talking about the environment. Like the other guy said, the environment have to do with all this pollution, all this. So that doesn't go with the environment, it goes with the economy. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, thank you very much. One last opinion, Mr. Ayomide, please. One last opinion. Somebody is saying that we should do away with the argument. It's not argument. This is discussion. This is actually not argument. And this is one of the best ways to actually learn, so that you gain new insight into what others people's opinions are and why they think something is something. And this is what the best way we can actually learn, really. So yeah, let's have Mr. Ayomide give a final talk on it while I also say what I. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Although I think it's a double way thing. One, we can look at it from economic perspective, looking at the international trade that will have a kind of cross-border effect, like the currency, the exchange rate will be affected, import and export activities that will be involved, then its effect on GDP. That's if we look at it from economic perspective. But looking at it from environmental perspective, the statement doesn't really have a kind of financial implication as it is. It's just like creating, as in maybe an external market for our products. So in that regard, I don't know if we understand if one environment is not good, we look at it like the way we have wars in some part of Nigeria, for instance. So we look at if we are going to judge war from environmental perspective, we are judging from the effect it will be having on our businesses. So since the recognition is coming from outside the country, I think I think from this area it's more of environmental than being economical.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on. People have started saying there's no time, which is fine. But then as much as possible, even when there is no time, the essence of this class is actually to learn. So exactly, provided you have the point to defend your report, you can use any business analysis of your choice. Yeah, that's correct. So I think for me, I would rather go for, for the sake of this class and for the sake of the audience, what is more clear is around the what's it called? The economic part of the whole thing. Yeah, we are moving on. It's around the economic part of the whole thing. That's what's more clear, and that's what I think I will go for. Ecological, if this environmental factor is ecological, then we can't say it is that factor is an ecological factor, because that ecological factors will be looking at how well is the living environment of that particular area, how well is the weather, how well is the pollution, and is there pollution and what have you. So that's what we'll be looking at, and not this. So for the sake of this class, let's take it as economical, because that is what even Mr. Ayomide also agreed that it can be that, and that's what we have more convictions towards. So E is for ecological. Okay, thank you. So if the E is for ecological, I don't think we have any more arguments to make on that. So yeah, that is it. And this is one of the reasons why personally I would prefer SWOT. So because you see now, I've put it in my opportunities, I've moved on. Now, if I'm using Pestel, I have to be bothered and concerned about, is it ecological, is it environmental, is it economic? You will be bothered one way or the other. And once you mix it up, there are chances that you can lose mark for mixing it up. There are chances of that. So the best bet for this kind of That's why short is the most easiest and your best bet, if you ask me. So yeah, thank you very much for the contributions, both left and right. That's very meaningful and it's well appreciated. So we move on. In moving on, we move a little bit faster now. They said the worldwide fashion industry has been estimated to what? So this is the global what? It's probably it doesn't have anything to add to us, but where it has something to add to us is Nigeria accounts for this guy. We are going to use these numbers. That's why I'm highlighting them, because you need to be able to play with this information you have been given. You need to be able to play with them, because they are talking about business forecast. There are chances that you need to discuss around business acquisition or some sort of investment. And if that's the case, you need to prove why this business is worthy. And if you are going to prove why this business is worthy, you need to tell us that the industry is large. And that's why we are saying that the industry is currently at $4.7 billion. $4.7 billion. So we can still argue and say part of the opportunity is that industry market size is 4.7 billion. Market size is huge. So there's a market for our products, right? So the market size is huge, both local and international. So we can use that as part of the opportunities. Really. We move on. They said there has been growth within the industries, and this growth is average growth is 17% per annum. This is still talking about the market size and the opportunities. So 70% per annum average growth is an opportunity. So we should take the guy and bring it to opportunities. So all of these things, we are already identifying opportunities. All these things, we can still use them to discuss in a single paragraph when we are selling the business, that there are opportunities within the business landscape, right? Then we move on to say, with increasing population, opportunity, increasing population as an opportunity as well. So all these ones, if you want to classify them under this pedestal of a thing, you still need to come back and say, increasing population, is it sociocultural, is it ecological, is it one thing, is it that thing? But if you just pick it as an opportunity, you don't lose anything. But if you have mastered pestle so much, then you are able to also use it to discuss, right? So we just move. So increasing population is an opportunity. The Nigerian fashion business is booming, and it does not appear to be slowing down anytime soon. And that's to corroborate the increasing population. Rising internet broadband. So that's also an opportunity. That's the technological factor in pestle. Rising internet adoption on broadband. That's also what? An opportunity. And now we are faced with the challenges, and this is one of the reasons why some people opine that we use pestle, because there are also challenges. But if you still use SWOT, you can bring those challenges under threat, right? Because threat is about the environment, external business environment. Despite the passive growth in the industry, there have been many challenges which will result in GDP. Each component of the value chain of the country currently has significant fault. Cotton farming in Nigeria, for example, is at an all-time low, and despite rhetorics to the contrary, textile production in the industry. So we are saying basic. So let me just be bringing them here. We are saying basic. I'm coming. Threat. Low textile production. So I'm already at low textile production. So if they have low textile production, that's a threat. A threat that probably might not even be able to meet with demand, or a threat that our cost of sales will be increasing, right? Then the next thing is saying here is another challenge is that we are unable to create basic fabrics and must therefore import them. Inability to create basic fabrics rather. importation of basic fabrics. So exchange rate fluctuations can affect that. So that's an issue. We're having exchange rate fluctuation because we are importing our basic. So that will impact on our cost of sales. You know where you are going to be using all of these things? Aside from the fact that you're able to use them for your discussion on the SWOT, that is business analysis part, you will also be able to use them on your financial performance analysis part. Because if you see that in year 1, cost is this price, in the year 2, the cost has increased, that should tell you something. The best way to relate it is to come back and say, this is the reason why the costs have increased, because we are consistently importing our basic input, which forms our cost of goods sales, our COGS, right? So that catches that. So we move on. We said, although the Nigerian content textile market was booming, unfortunately, we were unable to match demand for textile as our population continued to rise. So that's another problem. Population has become a threat again, because we might not be able to meet demand. So population too has also become a threat. I think I jotted that down as well. Inability to match demand due to rising population. So I bring it. So you see all of these things that we are doing. You are doing them at the back of your answer booklet, so that by the time you want to write the report itself, you are able to now use them adequately within the report. You build more on them. You can use 2 or 3 of them together and build a paragraph. That way, it shows something. What is it showing? It shows this guy assimilating and using information. You are also structuring problems, and you are telling us the likely implications at the same time, right? You are also drawing conclusions one way or the other from what you are experiencing. We'll get there. So the next thing, also due to lack of infrastructure to support manufacturing industry, lack of infrastructure is also there. That's also a threat. So we come and say lack of infrastructure. So that's also a threat.
Sorry there. Can we break down the infrastructure, as in just trying to make points? Power is an infrastructure on its own. Roads, exchange rate is another factor. Investment.
So you are right. So
can
what
we
are
do
doing
that
now? Yeah, that's what we are eventually going to do. What we are doing, have we done anything on that? We have not done anything on financial data analysis. What we are doing now, right, is that we are planning. So at this junction that we are bringing out points as we are seeing them. That's what we are currently doing. What you are now going to do when you want to prepare your report is to now build more on those points that you have identified while you are reading. What we are currently doing, for those of us that are just joining, we are planning. This is a planning phase. This is a planning phase. We are currently planning. We've not started answering the question. But as we are planning, the good thing about planning is that by the time we plan all of these things and we want to write our report, we know where to go directly. That is the reason why we are doing them short like this. So that, it's just a jotting at the back of your answer booklet. This is just a jotting. So you are just jotting. So the summarized version of what you are saying, you are just writing them down, so that by the time you want to write your report, you build more on them, and you are able to bring all of them out. Power supply, this and that, you are able to list everything. But at this current stage, we are planning, and as such, we are only bringing the condensed version of what we want to build on later on. So yeah, that's that. So that's correct. That's what we are going to use when we are writing the report, because we are going to be making use of the information within the case study. If we can say part of the threats. So this is how you can go about explaining this thing, right? So you are already, probably the thing that I'm looking at, what I'm perceiving about this case study exam is that there will be some sort of business combination, or some sort of somebody wants to invest in a business. I think Joshua mentioned it in the last class when we were talking about forecast. So I'm sensing something around somebody wants to invest in a business and we are trying to convince them. So in the process of convincing them, part of the best way to use this thing is to first talk about, probably you are explaining the business strengths. And that's one of the best ways you write your case study exam. As you are explaining the business strengths, I come here. So let's say increasing international recognition, okay, or rising population, increasing population. Okay, so we are under findings, and then we are saying business evaluate. So under your findings, see what I'm doing now. These are part of the things we are going to do. We must have subheadings, evaluation of business performance. No, evaluation of business. Evaluation of business, internal and external environment. Oh, no. Yeah. I'm looking for the best edits to use.
Why not just business evaluation?
Okay, business evaluation. Thank you, sir. Business evaluation.
Economic of
Sir?
I say economic of internal and external economic of for the business.
Let's just make it simple. Thank you too for that. Business evaluation. So we are talking about business evaluation, but viability of investment. With I can say with the increasing population, PP stands a chance to do what? To increase its market share and thus provide greater returns to investors for the foreseeable future. However, this doesn't. However, the downside to this is that there are situations. So the downside to this is that situation might arises where BP struggles to meet customers' demand due to increasing population, thus affecting the business, thus affecting the business. What can it affect? Thus affecting the business. Thus depriving the business from optimally generating revenue. So this can be a form of argument. What I'm trying to do here, I'm just trying to argue. I'm trying to argue a point within my case study based on what I've seen and what I've been given. Right? So that's what we are trying to do. And these are some of the things that you need to, as much as possible, attempt. You need to, as much as possible, attempt. So I hope you can see my screen. Can we see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm trying to do here, right? I'm trying to create a situation where we are able to use both the opportunities and threats together while we are explaining what's it called, while we are explaining or while we are examining the business viability or the business opportunities within the business landscape, the business evaluation. We said that there is increasing opportunities. There is increasing population, which is an opportunity. At some point, they still told us that this increasing population is getting us to not be able to meet with demands. That's also an issue. So what do we need to do in this case? The final conclusion will now be here. For BP to thrive, BP might need to leverage opening another, might need to consider opening more stores in other regions aside from Lagos and Abuja. So this is you just using the information that is available to discuss. You are using them to discuss, and you are using both the opportunities that you are given and the threats. So this shows that you have that capability of identifying problems and solution at the same time. Yeah, this is for SWOT analysis. This is us using SWOT analysis because we are explaining the business evaluation. And we don't necessarily need to just now start doing SWOT, strengths, opportunity, weaknesses, and stuff. This can be a general discussion. Even when you are discussing the opportunities, you can be discussing the opportunities and still chip in this guy that even when the opportunity exists, there is another problem. And what you can now do is to leverage your strengths to win the game. And that's the best way you want to discuss your business analysis. You identify that there is an opportunity, but with this opportunity, you also identify a related threat from this opportunity. You know that we've identified here that increasing population is an opportunity. At the same time, within the case study, they still told us that increasing population did not allow them to meet up with demands. So that's an issue. So we need to be able to find a way to combine both increasing population to be an opportunity, and at the same time, we need to talk about it as a threat. And then now bring a strength of BP to now let it be the last thing we want to talk about, to still make it that we are going to survive this threat. I hope you get my point. Any question at this juncture? Just 5 minutes. Any question? Let's just quickly ask a question before we move on.
Sorry, Mr. Qudus. We are actually able to identify opportunities. They're like one I captured here, increasing population as one of the opportunity. So if we say increasing population is one of the opportunity, is it under our conclusion, or where can we relate this opportunity to the threat in it? Is it under our conclusion or what? Because
no. So let me just quickly answer that. I think that's the question. Where we are going to relate it to is still where we are relating it to. Business evaluation. Let's do business evaluation. For this case, for this particular case study, we shall be using SWOT analysis, SWOT business evaluation to measure and examine how well BP functions is doing. So so let me bring these guys here so they can be on the same page. You do. So we should all know that this is just from my head, me trying to form something. We do strengths. We've said that we are going to use SWOT analysis. We do strengths. Right? We do weaknesses. Sorry for my bad. We do weaknesses. We do opportunities. We do threats. Right? So this one now, if you be under this guy, everything we are currently doing, they will be under the findings and observations. everything we are currently doing. They will be what? Under findings and observations, because that is where we are going to do business evaluation. Under findings and observation, right? And here we are talking about opportunities. We've identified one opportunities. However, we still consider that opportunity to as an element of threat. So we need to mention both of them together. However, we now need to conclude and make judgment that, though, see the way I've done it. I said with the increasing of population, BP stands a chance to increase its market share and thus provide greater returns to investors for the foreseeable future, right? However, the downside to this is that a situation might arise. A situation might arise where BP struggles to meet customers' demand due to increasing population and what and lack of basic fabrics and inadequate availability.
Well done, Mr. Qudus.
Availability of basic fabrics. So that's just it. Do you have anything to say?
Just a suggestion, really.
Please suggest.
I just want to get your perceptions about it.
Please go ahead.
Now we are talking about population. The fact that population is sufficing for opportunities and also sufficing for a threat.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that we should explain how population can be an opportunity under the opportunity segment, and also highlight it how it can be a threat to BP under the threat segment. It's a call to BP to leverage on their economies of scale, and the fact that the industry is big enough to take on further capital projects that can help address the issues of population, both internally and globally, for it to remain sustainable into the foreseeable future.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Joshua. That's well acknowledged. Anybody has anything you want to say? Go ahead, please.
I want to add something. So I think the opportunity brought an element of weakness and not threat. Because the
an element of what?
Now, weakness and not threat. The increase in population now is an opportunity for the company. But with their internal performance, they could not meet up with the demand. So and I think with the internal performance, it should be linked with weakness, which they should be able to improve on, be able to meet with the demand outside.
Okay. Thank you. Please go ahead. One more.
Okay.
Yes?
Please, I have one or two things to add. One is that if we look at our maybe from our readings, when the issue of increasing population was mentioned, I think it was there's an opportunity that came before it, which was increase in demand. It was increase in demand that they mentioned as an opportunity. They now said the increase in demand was due to increase in population, meaning that at that point, we only see that population rise as an opportunity. Now, due to the increase in demand now, and the company inability to meet up with that demand, that's when it becomes threat. That is one area. But if we look at the what's it called, where they adapted this whole scenario from, they mentioned some other thing, that the inability of the company to the industry to meet up with demand was not their fault and can never be. Then they started blaming the government. So that's when they started mentioning CBN, that at a point, CBN made a policy that they are not going to give foreign exchange currency to whoever that is into fabrics but want to import. But from our own scenario, it's obvious that the whole industry is import dependent, especially in terms of raw materials.
That's correct.
So we cannot really put it on FB, because I had somebody mentioning that FB does not even have any power to control population. They can only reorganize themselves internally to meet up with the market demand. They only want to get their own part of the share, their own part of the market share. So they only have to struggle and see that how much can they make, that can they get maybe at least the highest of the market share. So that one is internal, but all those factors are beyond them. They are more external, though within the country, but they never have power. They cannot close border, they cannot close importation, they don't have power on exchange rate, they don't have anything to do as far as the environment is concerned. And that's why we are putting it under the external factors here.
Okay.
So then my question now is, I think from the mention is that many of the companies in the industry, they are folding up. So I think there is something around going concern. So where are we going to put that here? If peradventure BP is unable to meet the demand, there's increasing average cost of production, there's lack of infrastructure for the company to thrive, well, it is not a threat to the going concern of the company. So that's the question I have for you, sir.
I think I love the way we are having this discussion, because it also makes even me, who is facilitating the class, to as much as possible think about things in different perspective and share with us what I feel, right? Okay, so this is it. To address the first thing that Joshua mentioned. So the attempt here is to, as much as possible, help us to cultivate that habit of argument, right? That habit of what? Argument. Yeah, there's if you see the way I've mentioned it, right? I did not blame anybody. I didn't blame BP. I didn't outrightly say BP will not be able to meet demand. I didn't even mention anything whether BP has the capacity to meet with the demand or not. But what did I say? I said there might be a situation where BP might not be able to meet customers' demand. And this is my own analysis, right? So me analyzing this way is to tell us that this is what I'm currently thinking, how best we can approach this. So if Joshua is saying that it can fall under the recommendation, that's pretty good. So what we can do as well is but one thing I must try as much as possible to make clear to us is we should refrain from just listing something and just moving on. Honestly, as much as possible, for you to get more marks, you need to be able to argue something out of something. And that's what we are trying to do here. You need to be able to argue something. Yes, this thing is fine, but something is wrong somewhere. And then now perfect the thing back. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And in terms of recommendations, if you go this route of taking things to recommendations, how many things exactly do we want to take to recommendations? If you are writing and you feel like this one that is particularly here, you use it in your recommendation, fine. Don't mention it just yet. Don't finalize on it just yet. Don't finalize on it just yet. Hold on to stopping here. Hold on to stopping here. Hold on to just stopping here. Hold on to stopping at the fact that there might be a situation where BP will not be able to meet up. That's you arguing. You said something that there is there is the population, which is an opportunity. But you also saw a threat that you would love to discuss. Because you can't just be discussing everything independently. It's not done that way. If you discuss everything independently, that's more or less like you just following exam formats, everything independently. No, argue. You need to argue. You need to be able to take A and B and merge them and say, this A is contradicting this B. And for us to strike a balance, this is what we need to do. And that's what we are trying to do in this particular space. Right? However, if we should take part of saying to take it to recommendation, that's fine as well. That's purely fine. It's purely fine. But what I just try to do is just to let us to know that there is a need for that argument to be coming in. Don't just be stating something like you are stating opportunity and you just state everything opportunity and nothing when you are given information that can actually impair the opportunity. This is an information that can impair that opportunity. So you need to mention it and then now counteract what you have mentioned, that for BP to survive, this is what they need to do. So that's that. And thank you very much, Joshua, for that. Thanks, Oga Olawale, as well for your mention. Now let's go to the final question that was asked around going concern. See, going concern is not a matter of just the industry. Going concern is a matter of financial performance. If the industry like, it should be burning. If the company has the money to spend, going concern will not be affected. The industry should be burning. I repeat, if the company has the money to spend and the strategy to do what, to maneuver things, the going concern will not be an issue. However, if you've read the case study, the additional part, and then we are being told that the companies within that industries are folding up. What is our duty? Our duty is to now go and analyze the company financial statement and couple it with the company's current strengths. What are we able to observe? And that is what we are going to use to discuss the matter of going concern. And in terms of discussing matter of going concern, that can still come under here and say going issues around going concern. So we are already there. So this is it. You've mentioned the threat, opportunity, and threat because it's under findings that you have to state all of these things, even the ones that have to do with going concern. So part of the things that you want to structure, that you want to talk about at the back of your notes is to state, okay, you want to discuss ethical issues, and then going concern issues. So as you are working, you are already preparing the spaces. And when you see this kind of issues of going concern, any issues that has to do with going concern, then you just fix it. And if there is no going concern issue, tell what you saw as well, that the company is doing well and the going concern is not threatened. And that's fine. I hope that answers your question. Sorry.
Yes.
Mariam, Bami, call to call.
Please, let's go ahead, Mr. Qudus. Okay.
Sorry, somebody was trying to call me, but then I am over it now. So yeah, let's just move on. Can we still see my screen? Yeah. Can we still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on a bit faster now, so that's. But I think we are gaining value from this class. Are we gaining value? Yeah, let's move a bit faster.
Yes, sir.
Let's move a bit faster. So now we are currently seeing the challenges, and we've seen one challenges. The challenges is saying that unfortunately we are unable to match the demand for textile due to lack of infrastructure and then rising population at the same time. We should be able to know how to conceptualize these things together and make use of them. I love the way Joshua is able to come up with arguments around some of these things, right? And that is one of those things we want to do. And that's one of the reasons why I tell us that, see, this thing is not a one-way, it's not a one-way thing. It's not one way. It's how you are able to do what? To argue. How you are able to argue stuff. Let's move on. Although, this is quite funny. Although President Muhammad Buhari signed an executive order. However, it is just on paper. So this one is also a threat because something is not working within the inactive executive order. So all these things that we are still doing, again, we are just planning. We are only planning. So as much as possible, as you are saying some of these things, be underlining, be bringing them, the condensed version, take them to the back of your answer booklet. Just things that you are going to talk about. So later on, you are going to use them to write whatever you want to write. Right? So that's that. Then the next thing, the procurement of school uniforms abroad by private school. And then for African prints like Ankara, operators do not. This is another one. This is a big problem. Ankara, they are putting made in China from Ankara that was made in Nigeria. So, and now the import. Oh, sorry. The Ankara they imported from China, they are putting made in Nigerian labels on it. And that's a problem because we will not be able to know what exactly is going on within the industry. Ankara importation is still on the rise. So all of these things, we need to use them. We need to use them. And using them means that as much as possible, we want to be able to relate them within the scenario. And that's what I just tried to do here. That's what I just tried to do here with this opportunity. Right? That's what I've just tried to do over there. And right, so let's move on. Then we'll move to financial analysis shortly. I'll be fast with this. Then we have data. They said data importation of textile. Also, another clue is that once we are given numbers, figures, let's try as much as possible to use those figures. However we can, let's use figures because figures speaks, it differentiates whatever we are writing from just words. Figures helps a lot. Once we have figures, let's use figures. And that's why I mentioned that 4-point-something billion. This one as well, they are saying with the country importing 200 billion worth of goods. So increase in importation, 200 billion worth of goods. And the imports and exports, the combination is not even nice. So imports and exports, 200 billion import, 5 billion export. The ratio is just too wide. So that's a problem. All these things are problem. So you need to bring the problem there. Right? So as we are doing these things, as we are identifying them, let's be jotting them at the back of our answer booklet. The reason why we are jotting this condensed version is so that by the time we want to write, we can write all this full paragraph. All this full. We can write everything. However, we are going to tweak them. We don't just write everything verbatim because that's not nice. We need to tweak them and then be able to write in our own words. And that's why we are doing the condensed version first. Right. Then the next thing, despite the importation is still on the rise. Importation is still on the rise. Then the BP industry itself, will be fast with this. The BP history, the company history, this is basically where you will see if there are ethical issues, if there are any form of other issues. Yes, we have already expressed one. We can express professional skepticism on the figures because there is one that is already around management accounts not being audited. So that's the professional skepticism. And that's what I'm trying to say. Professional skepticism is about questioning things and using your own judgment at the same time. So when it's about arguing points, basically, or most times, it's about you arguing points. If this is not this, what will happen? If this is this, why is it not this? It's about arguing points most of the time. So we move on. We say this is the company history. Inside the company history is where we are supposed to get issues around ethical issues, issues around going concern, issues around the strength and weaknesses of the company. That's where we are going to get that. So that's what we want to do now. Let's quickly identify the strengths and weaknesses of the company. Are you saying something? So I will just
let's go ahead. Let's continue.
For the one that you just asked, that you are saying the figures within the industry, whether we can think of what's it called, professional skepticism around it. This is industry data. We can only use it for argument's sake, or to do some sort of extrapolation or some sort of calculations that if this thing is happening within the industry and we are currently here, this is the likely things we can still achieve. So that's what we can do. Around whether we can exercise professional skepticism would be whether the data we got from the industry is right or wrong. And I don't think we have the leeway to do that, because this is an industry data. We can't be questioning industry data, except for if they are saying that it is the company, one of the company members that brought the data to us, then we can now be questioning it. Aside from that, we can't question industry data because it is an external evidence. I hope that answers your question. All this place, right? I don't think there is anything significant here for me. They said the company has up to 14 stores scattered all over the only Lagos and Abuja has separate stores, no wala, and then the company current. So this place is telling us about what the company does, what the company is into. So as much as possible, fashions, this is what the company is into. Let's just highlight up to this place. We are being told of what the company is into. So that's what the company is into, in case we want to talk about the company during our introduction or anywhere else. Then, in terms of men accessories. So this is where the first issue comes in. For me personally, this is where the first issue comes in. And I think somebody mistook this part during our last class. This is where the first issue comes in. And I would like anybody that can see any issue here to also raise hand and mention. Instead, the directors of BP Fashions and their shareholdings are as follows: name, designation, and shareholding. Managing partner. The main issue for me is this guy. Who also noticed another issue?
I can't see the screen.
You can't see my screen? Can anybody else also can't see my screen? I can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
We can see it.
Okay, you can see it now. No marketing director. Is that a problem? I don't think that's a problem as it is now. So this thing has an issue.
Sorry, I think there's governance issue.
God bless you. That's
corporate
the thing.
Governance.
Corporate governance issue. Board is not balanced. No, and okay. Independent, non-executive directors. Corporate governance issue. That's the first issue. So please go ahead. So other issues that we are seeing. Let's be getting them. Corporate governance. Please say something. You're saying something. Go ahead.
I said they are private. So if you're looking at corporate governance, is that not for public enterprise? We are saying, okay, maybe the formation of their directors is less than 5. The minimum, they are private. So
what you are saying in that part is in terms of requirements. For publicly quoted companies, they are heavily regulated and required. But for private companies, there's still a need for that corporate governance to be institutionalized within what they are doing. Most especially around the business owners and who the reporting is. So there is an issue between separating the shareholders and those charged with governance. They are the same thing. So this can actually give room for manipulations, most especially when the finance director is also part of the shareholders. The finance director is a shareholder and is also a director. So where is that distinction between the business and the owner? There's no outright distinction between the business and the owner. And because of, now what we are doing now, we are already excising professional skepticism. And these are other issues that we can be discussing. Because what this is saying is that if the business owners are also the shareholders and they are also the ones, if you are saying because of publicly quoted company, the likely end game of this whole case study can be an acquisition. It can be an investment. Are we going to say that because it is not a publicly quoted company, that's why they should use creative accounting to swindle us? No. We can't allow. So, and you know that in this case, the finance director who probably might not act in the best interest of the public, but acting in the best interest of the business owners, because they are also the business owners and they are also the one doing the business. So that's an issue. So there are chances that there can be creative accounting, since the finance director is also a shareholder in the company. Or what do you think? What do we think? In this kind of scenario, do we think there can be situations that can warrant that the finance director will not act in the best interest of the public?
I think you are spot on, sir, from my end here, because I mean,
go ahead.
I think you are just spot on, because I mean the whole responsibility of the finance of the company rests on him.
And he's also go ahead.
And he's also a shareholder, like I pointed out. So is it to exercise undue influence on maybe the other accountants or people in the finance department to manipulate the figures of the company so that they can look publicly?
That's it. The fact that the interest will be, there will be conflict of interest. There will be conflict of interest. Because the interest that he will likely be protecting now is the interest of the company, not the interest of the public per se. So that's an issue. So it's an issue that we need to spot. It's not an ethical issue to me. I don't think it's an ethical issue, but rather it's a corporate governance issue. And in this case, I'm not saying I'm dealing with anything ethical issues, but I'm excising professional skepticism as part of what I saw. That's part of what I saw, and I'm talking about it. So it's part of what we saw, and we need to discuss it. There is no clear distinction between the owners of the company and those charged with governance. And that means that they can easily manipulate figures. Figures can easily be manipulated to be in the best interest of the owners of the companies and not necessarily in the best interest of the public. And in this case, there are chances that some people want to invest in the business, which are part of the populace, right? So I think that's it. That's a key issue. There is a room for creative accounting, as there is no clear distinction between those charged with governance and shareholders. In particular, the finance director can influence other team members to act solely in the interests of the company's shareholders instead of acting with utmost growth and in the best interests of the general public. And that's it. I guess you can see my screen, right? Again, this is me just trying to explain to us what I can see. Yeah. We'll move faster now. Honestly. We'll move faster now. So I won't have to discuss many things again. I will just try to be bringing them out. I hope to a reasonable extent we've gotten out to discuss some of these things. What is left is actually not tough, but did we get out to discuss some of these things, or do we have any specific questions?
Please, Mr. Qudus, we have not identified the strength and opportunities.
So that's what I want to do now. What I want to do now, that's it. But I'm not going to be explaining how to use them. We are just going to be identifying them because of time. I will not be explaining how to use them. We are just going to be identifying them. And if that's what we are going to do, that means that we should try as much as possible to ask questions around how to write some of these things if you are having issues. Do we get what I'm trying to say? So they've caught my attention to the fact that we have a lot to do, but I want to move on now. So if I move on now, we are not going to explain anything in details again. We are not going to write anything in detail. So that's why if you have any question, please just ask now before we move on. Because as we are moving on, we are just going to be identifying the
strengths. What about the calculations, sir?
No, we'll get to that part. That one, those ones are not issues. We are not doing any calculations per se. So those ones are not issues. So any other question around how to structure? Is it advisable to do only one qualitative and one quantitative analysis? No. You can do as much as time permits, and that is why you are planning. That is why we are planning. So when you are planning and you see that you can use pastel and SWOT together, you've identified everything and you see that you can use everything together, and you know that you have the time, please just use it. But again, write out things that we want to discuss. We said planning area, business analysis. We are going to discuss business analysis. Financial analysis, you are going to do that. So these are the financial ratios that we want to calculate, right? Then the next thing, ethical issues. Then the next thing, corporate governance issues. I mean, in the case where the time is against you. No, when the time is against you. So that's why, don't let the time to be against you. Don't let the time to be against you. What I'm saying, maybe I did not get the chart well, so let me just quickly check the chart well. Sorry. I mean, in the case. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll provide I'll provide this Word doc to the people that organize this stuff, and they will get it across to us. Though it's just a rough document, we did it together, so it's nothing big deal. Yeah, I think the video too is recorded, so all these things are nothing big deal because we did it together. Almost everyone on the platform, we all did it together. So I'm not going to explain anything serious again because we want to move faster. So we are agreeing to that. So let's just use 10 minutes to identify every other thing that we want to identify. Another 10 minutes to do a ratio and discuss other things. So this is the business model. People are our greatest asset. So people are their greatest asset. That's part of their strength. But the people are innovative. So strength can be innovative workforce, right? Another strength is also that they listen to customers. It's a strength because they take feedback from the best channel. Frequent customer buying. So that's another one. So this one, they say they listen to customers. They deserve the best, so we serve them as king. So great customer experience is a strength because it brings about repetitive business. So great customer experience, and that's what they are saying here, that they listen to the customers. And this one is saying merchandise, product range should be fashionable, excellent in quality, top-notch product. That's also a strength, but not in particular. Then retail footprint. We seek prestigious locations in the commercial of each city. Our reach extends beyond bricks and mortars. Virtual showroom. So they are there. They said virtual showroom. You know that the increasing internet adoption or internet bandwidth means that please mute your mic. Thank you. So internet, they have high internet accessibility, so that's fine. Then BP stores. But there's a problem here that I would like us to quickly identify, which is a weakness, or which can lead to an issue in the future, or something that can be around recommendation. They said that they don't do our reach extends beyond brick and mortar as we engage our customers through social media. So they don't do offline marketing. So we can advise them, part of the recommendations that we need to do. So let's bring room for recommendations. So recommendations, that's where this is still our jotting area. So recommendations, so let me bring it from this guy. Consider offline marketing channel. So we can recommend to them that they need to consider offline marketing channel, because they currently say that they don't do it. They need to be doing it in order to increase sales, because not everybody will still be online. That's something that we need to talk about. Then BP versions and stores, they said they are currently across blah blah blah. There are 3 buildings. We don't need that. Then this is a strategy. Customer experience. Our customer do window shop with our competitors and make their purchases from our store. This is a very powerful customer service that they've done, because they said customers will go to somewhere else, like somebody going to Mr. Biggs and saying that Mr. Biggs sells something like burger, for example, and then the person leaves Mr. Biggs and go to Tantalizer to buy the burger. That's really something that is beyond just ordinary business strategy. That's a very fantastic strategy, because it means that they are doing something really, really spectacular. So yeah, that's great customer experience. They are providing great customer experience. So I think I've written it here. Part of their strength, great customer experience. And that's why their customers are able to go and look elsewhere to look at what they have there and come back to them to buy it from their shop. That's fantastic. Then, of course, we do not provide credit facility. This is where an argument ensued the last time. They said they don't provide. So this can be part of other discussion that you can do. That can be part of other discussions or other issues. So under other issues, we can do these other issues. We can put all these ethical issues and co under other issues, and then corporate governance. So then the next thing is this particular issue. We know that we are arguing on this particular issue of credit facility, and they having receivable and there's credit facility. Part of the recommendation that I would like to give them is to consider giving clients consider credit sales to increase revenue, right? So that's that. And then this one they are saying, so this is actually arguable. They said that, of course, we do not provide credit facility to customers because we are not in banking business, but simply retailer. So if they are saying they do not provide they do not provide credit facilities, that will probably means that one way or the other they are talking about, and they are also relating it to banking. So that probably means that they don't give loan, and at the same time, it can also mean that they don't give credit. They don't sell on credit. So I've explained this thing at the beginning of this class on how you can argue both. You can argue that they don't give credit, and the trade and other receivables that they have is just other receivables. And you can also argue that they give credit, but the financial statement is, you need to question the financial statement, even including the audited one. You need to question the integrity of the auditors and what have you.
Mr. Qudus, sorry, can we take it as part of recommendation that they should consider wholesale, since they limited themselves for retailing? So I think that will give a kind of expansionist strategy.
Consider wholesale business.
I think they should consider just through the expansionist strategy.
So that's it, as form of business expansion strategy. So these are recommendations. Honestly, these are recommendations that we can. And I love the fact that we are able to discuss it. And that's one of the reasons why we are here. Let's discuss. Let's exchange ideas. Then somebody is saying, we carry out intensive analysis of customers' buying pattern. This is a very good strength. That's a strength. I've written it here before. That they do frequent customer buying analysis. They do buying analysis of their customers to know the pattern of their buying. Listening to customers, they take feedback from the best channels. That's a strength as well. Great feedback channel. If they take feedback from their customers, that's a strength, because not all companies are always willing to take customer feedback. So that's a strength. We need to be able to discuss all of these things, though there's no time to be explaining how to discuss them again. But yeah. Then the next thing is saying we keep our social media platform and spawn traditional marketing or traditional advertisement. I've told them that they need to consider offline marketing. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. They need to consider offline marketing. That's not good enough. So we've put it as part of their recommendation. They need to consider offline marketing. Our practice is visiting our competitors' stores at least once a month. That's not a problem if you ask me. But whoever that has issues with that, please state your issue and let us discuss it. Because I've seen it written as ethical issues. Please go ahead.
The issue of corporate governance when the shareholders are involved in the running of the business, how can we include that in the recommendation?
In the what?
Recommendation.
Okay, how can we recommend around that?
Yeah.
So it can be that they need to employ independent people to make as directors, finance directors. They need to employ independent people to join the companies, or they need to. Okay, so it should be. Let's just do recommendation as. Recommendations can be employ key management team to separate key shareholders from those charged with governance. So we can do this. So this is also an option to do. Is that fine? Is what I just did fine? Do we agree with it? Nobody's saying anything.
It's okay, but I think it's okay. But what I wrote is just that I said they need to separate governance from shareholders, such as employing an independent finance director.
Okay, that's also another thing. I'm saying that employee key management team, that's also something nice. So that's fine. So let's just move a little bit faster, just like we've said. So key risk. These are the risks. Risks are
okay.
Please go ahead.
What about other stores to go and check?
Yeah.
That can be like a reputation. It can affect their reputation, and also the places they are going to check. They can sue them for trespassing. It's not that you are just coming to our store. You are coming to our store to invade our own product. Like you are coming to steal our design, steal so it can affect them later. Maybe court issues, credibility with customer, that they can't design themselves. They are going to copy somewhere, something like that. So it's part of.
Okay,
I think that
makes sense. That makes sense. Who has any argument against it? Let's argue as best as possible, because this is actually one of the best way to learn some of these things. Any argument against it?
I think so far.
I think there is no crime in that. Our practice is visiting our competitor's store at least once in a month.
I didn't get that. Sorry. Please, I didn't get that.
I think what the person is saying is that it borders on reputational risk.
Okay. Yeah, reputational risk. Okay, go ahead.
According to me, I think as far as fashion industry is concerned, nobody owns any pattern. You only own your brand. So far they are not copying your branding. Example now, if you want to buy a jean now, whether this company now, probably Gucci now, producing this type of jeans today, doesn't mean Nike cannot pursue that kind of it. So far, they are not copying their brand name. So in fashion industry, I don't think anybody or any organization owns the right to any type of style. Basically, any idea can come from anywhere and any pop can come.
I think
Hi.
you are right. Somebody else wants to say something. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
so with regards to the reputation the other person spoke about, the truth is in every industry, different companies copy of each other's marketing strategy. So it is actually, from my own opinion, an intelligent move to, be on your competitor's tail and, try to see, okay, what's the next person doing? How can we improve on that? How can we be better? And I think that kind of speaks to the earlier point mentioned that the window shop in other customers window shop in other competitors' store and finally come to buy from them, because they go there, they see, okay, what are these guys missing? And then they impute what is missing, and that's what brings customers back. So actually that serves as a strength. It's just that the only thing we might say is they have to be careful so as not to over push boundaries and probably steal, but as far as there's no patent right and you cannot say I stole anything. So any customer or any competitor that is claiming this is my idea, there's no fresh idea. Nobody is the sole owner of any idea until there's a patent to it. So I think it's just a strength on their part. Yeah.
I love the way we are. Please, can we mute ourselves, please? Let me just take it off, please. Let's raise our hand. Let's mute. Let's all mute, please. Let's be coordinated. Thank you. Olamide Giwa, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Olawale, please mute your mic. So I think I will allow Michael to go first. Michael wanted to say something. Let's allow other people who have not said anything since to also contribute, please. That way we are learning. If Michael is still on the call, if you want to talk, please just try to raise your hand so that we can be coordinated. Is Michael on the call? Okay, if Michael is not on the call, let's have Olamide Giwa speak.
So so I kind of agree with the person that says it poses a reputational risk, and and I also agree with the person that talked about the patent right stuff. Now, in the information given, which forms part of our professional skepticism, that's availability of data. We don't know how, if the product or the designs of these are customers that the company is going to go and spy on, if they have patent on it. So these are things that we need to critique. Now, it's fine if their customers are going there. Now, if their customers are going there to go and check, that's another thing. But we as a company going there, which makes us to give them a recommendation for the need, why they need to have a marketing or sales, or let's say a research department or a research head or a marketing director that could help them do all of those things. So it poses a reputational risk and it sends a message to their customers. If they see that the company they are banking on is copying, so they are trying to, how will I put it? So as a customer, especially for the fact that it's a fashion industry, one of the things you want to look out for is product differentiation. So stuff like that, and that's just my take.
Yeah, I love the way we are arguing this and giving different opinions, which makes a great deal of sense. So what I would just say is, let's have Joshua speak, and then Akonde can have the final talk. Or if anybody else that has not said anything before can raise hand, and then Avi. So Joshua, please say something.
I actually wanted to talk I'm glad she raised something around trespass, and I really think I want to take it out from there. So when we look at the basics of a contract, before a contract is entered into, there's an offer is made, an acceptance, there's an invitation to treat and stuff. So if any of those things are then not breached, or say you begin to go into another person's land, or you begin to assault, do all of those things, then the trespass is recorded. However, so to address that, I think you doing window shopping is just an invitation to trade. You as a customer, you are not trying to make in an offer, and as such, is not counted to be a civil offense.
And as a result, I don't think a customer can be charged of trespass.
No. We are speaking to the client, the customer, the BP itself.
Of course. I'm just.
Let's be brief. Let's be brief, please.
So, now taking it further, I think for me it's more like it just shows like a smart move, or it could be like even a marketing strategy saying, "Don't worry, come with your own design." It could be a marketing strategy in the sense that BP is listening to the customers to be able to create products that suit their needs, or products that suit their taste, or products that suit their preference at every point in time. And as such can be seen as a brilliant move, really, other than seen as a form of trust.
Okay, so I think I will just have Akonde say one final word, and then I will tell us what I feel about it. So Akonde, please go ahead.
So in ethical issues, for it to be like a problem, it has to pass some tests. Does it pass going to other people's shop to check their product? Does it pass publicity tests? So if it doesn't pass publicity, definitely is an ethical issue. So that's what I just want to say.
Okay, thank you very much for what you've said. I think I will just move on from there. In my opinion, please mute your mic, except you want to say something to us. Though I've taken the last. Please mute your mic. Okay, say something. Hello? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I just quickly want to delve into benchmarking. The question, the scenario did not tell us if the competitor is not fine with it, if they are not okay with BP coming to their location to actually look at how they go about their operations. And looking at benchmarking, competitive benchmarking is allowed, if I can use that word. So BP can actually move around with their consent. They might seek their consent. It wasn't told whether they consented to it or not. So if they consented to it, there is nothing wrong in going to their store to actually look at how their operations is being carried out. That's what I just want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful addition, right? And I briefly agree to it. And I think this is a good room for us to argue in the exam hall as well. These are part of the things that get you marked as a professional, because you are arguing stuff and you are trying as much as possible to bring out some. Mention. She said something around once it is not clear that those designs are patented, then there is no offense committed. However, we can argue on the reputational risks only if they sue BP. That's when we can argue on reputational risks. But if there is nothing like lawsuit or whatever, then we can still say it's still a form of ensuring that you consider your external environment. Please mute your mic. I can hear me. So right. Then the next thing is that we can argue this thing and say that this is an ethical issue, or we say that this can lead to an ethical issue. And how do I mean? We say that if BP is going to a competitor store to copy, we don't know even what they are exactly doing, but we want to assume that they are going to competitor stores to check for designs or to get ideas, because our practice is visiting our competitor stores at least once in a month. Did not outrightly specify what they are going to do there, but let's say they are going to check designs. So if BP is going there to check designs, BP can fall into a situation where BP go ahead to copy patented designs and get them sued. That's the only ethical issue. And if BP gets sued, there can be a form of lawsuit which can now lead to reputational issues. Aside from that, I don't think I can see anything wrong with going to your customer stores to see what exactly they are doing there, because this is actually a normal business practice. I hope we get my point. Yeah, so we'll just...
Yes, let's go ahead.
we just move on a bit faster now. So key risk, I'll just give us the risks here. I will not bother doing any further explanation. Key risks relies in their weaknesses. So these are the key risks that I have that lies in their weaknesses. We'll just give it to us. So yeah, this is where we have the risks for this class. So what this risk is saying here is, they said that increasing competition from global fashion brands, that's a threat. If they are increasing competition, that's a threat, right? So we come to threat again and recognize a threat. Increasing competition. Yeah, that's very correct. Recommendation can be that they should be careful while going to customer stores. So PP should be careful while visiting customers stores to avoid lawsuits. Competitor stores to avoid lawsuits. Competitors stores to avoid lawsuits. So that's fine. Thank you very much, the person that gave us that. So threats can also be that increasing global competition. Increasing global competition. That's a threat. And the next thing is customer spending is linked to underlying economic conditions. Economic is in recession. That's not BP's issue. If the economy is in recession, that's an external factor. That's not BP's issue. So in fact, that can be a threat. That can be a threat. Recession can be a threat. Then the next, in fashion industry is notoriously fickle, making forecasting. So this is where we are saying that there are chances that they are going to give us a financial forecast such that what they want to discuss might actually be around business investment or business acquisition or what have you. So investing difficulty. No, not difficulty. What do you want to say? Forecasting issues, misjudgment, industry challenge. Let me even see where I treated it before now. Sorry. I'm coming. I think it's just industry. Firstly. So that is also a threat for any people that wants to invest in the business. Increasing overhead costs due to high inflation, volatile. Increasing overhead costs is also a threat. We move faster now. We get here. So we are here. I think we'll be done in the next couple of minutes because for this one, I will not take much of our time. We've done CR, we've done FR. Many of us are professional accountants. So to do this, what I always say about this guy is that each time you want to do this guy, don't waste time doing trend analysis for all the line items. Do not waste time doing trend analysis for all the line items. Just pick the relevant ones and do the trend analysis on it. Right? The relevant ones. And even you can state in your writing that you believe that 2 years will be sufficient for this discussion. You are a professional. You mention that and you work with 2 years instead of doing trend or anything for the 3 years, right? And that's that. So we do trend analysis for our revenue, our cost of sales, and gross profit margin, and we move on. I've said before. So for these ones, for financial statements, we don't necessarily to also do trend analysis for everything. Do trend analysis for current assets. Do trend analysis for non-current assets, for total assets, and then for current liability, non-current liability, and total equity. That's fine. Just do your trend analysis should not be for everything. Trend analysis takes a lot of time, and that's a beautiful time waster. So you mustn't give that a chance to waste your time. It's just a time waster. So you shouldn't give it time. You shouldn't give it that chance to waste your time. So now, the next thing is ratio analysis. And this one is just about discussing ratio. So for ratio analysis, right, I've always mentioned something. I mentioned it during our last class as well. For ratio analysis, this is how you analyze your ratio. This is how you analyze your ratio. I brought the ratio analysis. I'll bring it here and then explain to us. For ratio analysis, this is how we analyze our ratio. Right? I said, whenever you want to do ratio analysis, the first thing you want to do is to decide what ratios are you calculating. We have already decided here the ratios we are going to calculate. Profitability ratio, we said we are going to calculate 3. Efficiency ratio, we are going to calculate 2. Liquidity ratio 2, and gearing ratio 1. That's 8 in total. Gross profit, and ROE. Then we calculate gross profit margin. Then we calculate liquidity current ratio and asset test ratio. Then we calculate efficiency, asset turnover, and inventory turnover. Then we calculate the gearing ratio, debt to equity ratio, right? And that's that. Since we've decided that that's what we want to do, I'll just take us on the commentary, how we go about commenting on these things. Somebody should quickly help us to calculate a ratio around efficiency, probably asset turnover or inventory turnover, either of the. So somebody can quickly calculate a ratio on inventory turnover, or if you already have it, just give us the figure for inventory turnover ratio in 2020. Inventory turnover ratio, just give us the figure.
1.95.
1.95, say?
Yes.
Okay, inventory turnover.
No, turnover. Inventory day, that's 120 days.
Okay, inventory days. Inventory days is 120 days. Ba? From where?
2020.
This is 2020, ba? What was 2019?
115.
115 days. So inventory has increased. How do you calculate your inventory days? Give us the formula.
Inventory over cost of sales multiplied by 365 days.
Inventory over COGS times 365. Okay, so we'll discuss this. But let me first explain this one. So I said, for your ratio analysis, right, the first thing you need to do is to get your results. So for last month, we did for gross profit margin, right? And we got results. Results for 2018, results for 2019, and results for 2020. We now made an assumption that what if you are given a forecast that says 60%? What do we do? Now, we want to come here and comment on the financial health of the company. You know, this is business evaluation, strength, opportunity. Then the next thing, after threat, opportunity, we want to comment on financial, EPs, financial, okay, evaluation of BP's financial health, right? Evaluation of BP. Yeah, if you have that too, we can also use that. Someone just gave us inventory days, which is also fine. If you have inventory, what's equal to, we can move on. So that's it. Then the next thing is evaluation of BP's financial health, right? Then we say profitability ratio for this case study, and in evaluating BP's financial performance, we shall be using the following ratios. Then you go profitability ratio, or if you don't want to stretch yourself, just go gross profit margin ratio. Then you say you can explain the gross profit margin, explain. If you cannot explain, just go ahead and say, okay, BP's. So this is the commentary. Okay, I'm already, okay, this is it. So this is the commentary. We've calculated BP's gross profit margin, and that's why I said we are lost my network. I'll explain how we got about the commentary to us. So now, can we all see my screen as per the commentaries? We are rounding up already. Once we are done with this,
no.
we are done. We can't see my screen?
No, we can't see it too.
Wow.
I can see you. I can see you.
Yes, I can see.
I can see you.
I can.
Okay, I've zoomed it better now. I think everybody should be able to see it now. So this is it. I said we need to evaluate BP's gross profit margin. We've calculated the gross profit margin. I said the first thing when you are doing financial ratio, the first thing you need to do is to, you've calculated the ratio in your appendices, right? Like I've said, when you are writing or when you are reading, and you already know the ratios that you want to calculate, you also need to jot. And that's part of the things that we've done. We need to jot. We've jotted the ratios that we want to do. If you remember, write the formula out so that you don't forget. Just leave them there. By the time you start to need them, you use them to work. Now, we've calculated the ratios. First, when you calculate the ratio, tell us the results. This is how to do ratio analysis. For your ratio analysis, the first thing is tell us the results. What is the result of what you just calculated? Tell us. Tell us the results. What happened? What is the result of what you calculated? Causes. Tell us the causes of the result. What are the responsible factors for this result that we are having? Tell us. Then the last part, tell us the implication or impact of the result. What are the implications of this result? Or what is the impact of this result on the company's financial health? I come again. Tell us what happened or what has happened. Tell us what factors are responsible for what has happened, or what causes what has happened. Then the last part, tell us the implication or the impact of what has happened. And that's it. That's a very succinct financial analysis. Right? And this is where we are going to spend the last 5 minutes. Right?
Sorry, sir.
Please go
when
ahead.
You analyze the ratios, are we to suggest reasons? Are we to suggest solutions to those ratio problems?
So if you see a problem and you've seen the solution from the scenario that you've read, suggest it.
For example, if the payable days, I'm just painting a scenario.
Go ahead.
If the payable days are increasing, using maybe a trend analysis or something, you have to suggest that probably they try to collect their whatever faster, collect their money faster from creditors.
Reduce. Yeah, you can suggest. But if you are going to suggest, you must relate it to what is in the scenario. What do I mean by you must relate it to what is in the scenario? Say that their payable days increases. You need to tell us what is making the payable days increasing. If it is a factor that is already from the scenario, then your suggestion will also be in counter of that factor. Not that you will now suggest something that is outside the scenario. I hope we get the gist. So payable days, let's use inventory turnover, for example. Inventory turnover is high. Let's say inventory turnover is reducing. Inventory turnover is reducing. And this is because of the fact that sales is reducing, right? If sales is reducing, why is sales reducing? We've known that it's because of increasing competition and the smuggling that is happening. Then, what do we need to do? We say BPs need to consider alternative marketing instead of solely relying on online marketing. Do we get? So that's you relating with the scenario. Don't just go and suggest something that is outside, like saying BP should collect they should collect their what's it called faster, or BP. Don't suggest any generic solution. Don't suggest any generic solution. Don't ever suggest that. Suggest based on the case study. And that is why what I've said is that this ratio analysis, tell us what has happened in terms of the result of your ratio. The next thing, tell us the factors that caused it. So those factors is what will tell you whether you can provide solution or not. There are some that you might not be able to provide any solution. You just need to state the impact and move on. This is the impact and move on, because you probably don't even have, BP does not even have any form of what's it called over the solution. They don't have any form of control. If it is an external factor that is causing the issue, how do you want to suggest solution to BP? You don't want to suggest generic solution, right? You want to suggest solution that is in line with what is happening. So let's say coronavirus happened now. People are not going out again, so they are not patronizing fashions industry. What are you going to suggest? You probably might not be able to suggest anything serious. So you just need to tell us the implication that if BP's gross profit margin is reducing, then that means that there will be a decrease in the net profit, and that can affect the cash flow of the company, overall cash. You just need to ensure that you link everything together. Michael, please mute your mic. You just need to ensure that you link everything together. I hope that answers your question. So let me just move on faster now. Please, let's try as much as possible to hold on. Let's be done with this guy, and then we'll give room for question. So this one is saying that BP, so we said we've calculated the gross profit margin. I repeat, what has happened? Look here. We said BP gross profit margin reduces by 2% from 52.39% in 2019 to 51.99% in 2022. BP gross profit margin has reduced. That is the result of the ratio that we calculated. That is what has happened. Right? And I said, you don't just stop at that's what many people do. And that's the reason why many people fail. Because they just go ahead and stop at what has happened and just keep explaining what gross profit margin means. It doesn't work that way. You need to be able to relate it to the scenario. What has happened is this. But what causes it? What caused what has happened? You said this can be attributed to the continuous increase in exchange rate as the basic fabrics. You see that this can be attributed to the continuous increase in exchange rate. I didn't stop there. And because we come again to meet this guy, they said assimilating and using information, applying judgments, structuring problems and solutions, drawing conclusions and making recommendations, demonstrating integrative and multidisciplinary skills, and presenting appropriate appendices. All these ones that you're saying, all these numbers are as a result of appendices. You're playing with figures. They'll probably reference later, or that they'll probably be able to see. BP gross profit margin reduces by 2% from 52.39% in 2019 to 51.99% in 2020. Please, when you are doing ratios, don't over-approximate so that you'll be able to explain. If you have approximated this guy to be 52% and this guy to be 52%, you'll not be able to see any commentary to make. You'll not be able to see any commentary to make because this will mean 0. You'll not be able to see any commentary to make. So do not over-approximate when you are doing ratios. Don't over-approximate. Approximate to an extent that there are still differences that you can see. Don't over-approximate. Because if you over-approximate, you'll not be able to make commentary. So do not over approximate. So leave it at this. Don't over approximate. 52.39 is different from 51.99. They are two different things. So do not approximate them to be the same thing, so that you can be able to comment appropriately. The next thing, we've said this can be attributed to the continuous increase in exchange rate. These are judgments. We're already giving judgments. As the basic fabrics and in general, the raw materials required to manufacture textiles are largely imported. This is said in the case study. This was said in the case study. Do we remember where we have this guy? Let me show us. These are here we have for African print like Ankara. Operators noted that distributors have broken the value chain and now import directly from China. This is one, and the other one is saying the raw material inquired. This is another one here. The raw material required to manufacture textile are imported into the country. So many of, and you can see exchange rate, increase in exchange rates. Can we see? So you are going to relate it to the scenario. That way, you are able to get more marks. Are we getting the gist? I hope you are getting it. Then I did not stop there. I said, tell us the results. What has happened? Tell us the causes. What are the factors responsible for these results? Then we've said the causes. The causes is because we are importing basic fabrics. Why did I say the causes is because we are importing basic fabrics? Because to calculate your gross profit margin, you need the gross profit and revenue. And to get the gross profit, you need the what? Cost of sales. And if you come to look at the scenario, that's why you must always trace it back to this place. If you come to look at the scenario, revenue is increasing. So gross profit should not reduce because of revenue is increasing.
I can't hear anything, no.
Hello? Can't hear you anymore.
I think the guy lost his network. So
yeah.
just going to look for him to
Yeah. Apologies, I had network glitch. Sorry for that. I'm still in. So sorry, I had network glitch. But I'm back. I apologize for that. Are we still together now? Can we see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was explaining that.
Yes, we can see it.
I was explaining that for us to be able to explain the ratio, we need to trace what makes up the ratio so that we can use what they've said about those things within the scenario and use them to comment. Because now, you know that cost of sales is about the basic input. That's cost of sales. And they are saying that exchange rate is affecting cost of sales. That is, exchange rate is affecting basic input, but because they are being imported, that means that cost of sales is increasing. And because of that, even when revenue is increasing, cost of sales is increasing even at a higher rate. And that's why our gross profit margin reduces. And that's what we've said here. We said the raw material required to manufacture textiles are largely imported. Then we move further. Thus, even though BP saw an increase in revenue in 2020, right? It experienced even a more significant increase in cost of sales by 19%. By 19% from this amount in 2019 to this amount in 2020. This implies that BP needs to take control of its manufacturing cost, either by investing in locally made fabrics through backward integration or securing a supplier agreement with a local manufacturer. Somebody was saying, can we give recommendations? This is a recommendation. This is a what? Recommendation. This is a recommendation. Do we all get that? Somebody is saying, please, sir, how did you get 2% reduction in the gross profit margin using 52.39 for 2019? Minus 52.39 minus 51.99 divided by 51.99. It should give you that 2%. So that's that on how to run the commentary for ratios. That's that on how to run the commentary for ratios. So let's now say, I've given us how to run the commentary for ratios, and that's what we are going to write here. You can't write this thing and somebody will not know that you've written something, or they won't consider you as somebody that understands what he or she is doing, because you've done perfectly well. And that's that. Let's see if we can do one more ratio, because that's the last thing that we have on the agenda. They say inventory days 120, and then inventory days increases to 115 days. What does inventory days mean? How long it takes us to exhaust our inventory. So if our inventory days is increasing, what's happening? What's happening? Why is our inventory days increasing? Because sales increases during the year under review. The thing that is still affected is still our cost of goods sold. Or let us even check our inventory. So first thing we need to do is to check inventory. How are we doing well with inventory? So inventory increases during the year. Inventory increases during the year from this amount to this amount. That's one of the reasons why our inventory days increases. And what caused inventories to increase? Cost of sales basically increases. We have more goods and we are not making as much as expected sales, even though we can confirm that our sales has increased. Because our sales slightly increase, while our revenue, cost of goods increases. So this inventory that we even have, this price of inventories that we have, might not necessarily even mean that we have more inventories in stock. It could mean that the value of our inventories has actually increased due to exchange rates, and not necessarily because we have more inventory in stock than we have as of last year. I hope you get that point. So that commentary will still run around the fact that cost of sales is increasing. You can now pick another scenario, another case study to actually factor in that cost of sales of a thing. Instead of saying just general fabrics, raw material imported, or largely exchange rate, you can tell other things that is making the cost of sales to increase. You can leverage the issue of the small goods that is not making you make as much as possible sales. and that's why you are having more inventory in stock. And you can also leverage the issue of exchange rate, that it doesn't necessarily mean that we have more inventory in store. It can mean that the value of our inventory has increased due to exchange rate. So if we all get the point, I think that's everything we have here. The floor is open now for questions. So let me just save this guy so that I can be able to send it.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Qudus.
Can
you hear me, Mr. Qudus?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. I
can hear you.
I have a question. Please, we are actually identifying ethical issues and other issues. So where are we actually disclosing that ethical and other issues on this content? As we have the executive, we have introduction, we have methodology and procedure,
under the
findings and observation and conclusion. Where are we putting that
findings and observations?
And other issues?
Findings and observations. Everything that I've said here today, will fall under findings and observation, and that's why I did this.
Thank you. Then, please, the last question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, please, the last one is, are we doing for 2019 and 2020 alone?
In my opinion,
are we doing the ratio analysis for 2019 and 2020 alone?
In my opinion, it is sufficient for you to do for just 2019 and 2020 and compare the difference. Because if you are still given additional data, you need to work on that data.
Then what if we use for 2018 and 2019?
It's choice. It's choice based. It's how well you are able to plan yourself. How well you are able. So if you have if you have 2019, for example, and you are not satisfied with the result, you can't use it to comment. You can go and do 2018 in and use growth month on month, year on year growth to comment. But if just doing 2019 and 2020 suffices for what you want to do,
thank you very much, sir.
You don't need to discuss 2018.
I have a question, please, Mr. Qudus.
Please go ahead. Please let's raise our hands so that we don't. Yeah, please go ahead.
The last page of the Preseen, which is page 9, talks about the interest rate and the tax. Are we to calculate further the financial statements with this information that we are given in the last page?
No. This information in the last page doesn't have anything to do with the upper information. It only means that we can expect something around financial forecast analysis where we are able to do this. And I also mentioned during our last class that if you are given financial forecast, right, you can also use it, calculate ratio on your financial forecast too. Or in terms of financial forecast, usually they can give us ratios. They will give us ratio results. So if they give you ratio results, they've even help you to tell you the kind of ratios you have to calculate in case you don't know before. Come and see what I did here. You see that we put forecast here 60%. So if they give you forecast and then you calculate the gross profit margin ratio and it is saying 60%, when in actual fact between 2019-2020 they've only been able to do 51.99% or an average of 52%. That's to tell you that if they are giving you a forecast of 60%, you need to debunk it and tell whether it is achievable or not. And how do you tell whether it's achievable or not? You leverage the information that you have been given. Let's now ask that question. Who is going to help us out? 60%, is it achievable or not? Why? Tell us using the case study. Let's quickly test ourselves here in case we meet something like this in the exam. And from what I've said so far, we should be able to address this thing. Is 60% achievable or not? Let's leverage what we have in the case study. What do we think? 60% gross profit margin, is it achievable?
For me, sorry, I don't think it's achievable because if you look at the trend of events, it has been a continuous reduction in terms of revenue and increasing whatever in terms of cost. So to get 60% based on their past experiences is not really achievable.
That's for me.
That's just it. You are right. Absolutely right. Because what you need to do is just to look at the past trend. What did they do in 2018? What did they do in 2019? What are they doing in 2020? And if you are saying that 60%, what are the factors that will make them achieve 60%? What are the factors that won't make them achieve 60%? What I will just do if I'm in your shoe is just to come to our opportunity and threat. That's what you just need to examine. Increasing international recognition. Can that give them 60%? The threats are actually outweighing the opportunities to now say that they'll be able to get 60% because importation of fabrics is not stopping. And currently, we are not even able to match rising population in terms of because of lack of poor infrastructure. That's still there. So we can't achieve 60%. So you need to mention that. And that's that. So I think with this, I'll just leave this guy here. Any question, observation?
Hello, sir. Please, I have a question.
Please, sorry, before everybody starts asking questions, let's try to use the raising our hands button so that we can be able to ask questions and not that.
I can't find raise your hand though. I've been looking for it though.
Okay, just go ahead.
Okay. My question is just around the ratio analysis and trend. I missed some parts because I went to the mosque. You said the result of the ratio should be linked with the causes and the possible implications.
Yes.
I think I'm doing that with my own writing. So, is it not fine if we from the cause and the effect now, we can take it to recommendation and advise appropriately under recommendation. Is that advisable?
Yes. But the thing is that you can't take so much things to recommendations because you'll be making you can lose mark. And how do I mean? You are giving you are discussing something on spot, and now you are perfecting your discussion to a later time. It's not that adding, it's not complete. So as much as possible, I would rather encourage that do everything, including your recommendation, under that part of where you are having ratio analysis. That recommendation that is after the conclusion part, that one is just the general recommendation of almost everything you've discussed. Just a repetition and an addition to what you have discussed. Not that you will now be taking everything and go and be putting them under recommendation. No, that's not the way it works. The way it works is that if you are dealing with an issue, you are making discussions, you are making arguments, and there's a recommendation that you need to give to that argument. Give it to it at that moment. Right? Later on, if you need to make additional recommendation, go and make it in that recommendation part. And that's it. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other question from anybody?
I have a question.
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead. Sulaiman, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Under the business model, can we also suggest hands-off matrix in the sense that we were told that there is an increase in population, which is young people? So under hands-off matrix, we have market penetration, product development, market development, and diversification. So we can suggest that, okay, because from the information given to us, we were only told that they were into men and women collections. They are not giving us information about children wears. So can we advise them that they should diversify into children wears? One. Then also by creating new markets in new place. Product penetration by creating new markets in a new place where they did not have market before. Then under our recommendation, can we also now add it there that, based on the findings, we recommend that they create more stores. Then also, we were told that in Lagos and Abuja, they operate separate store. Can we also advise them that they should do it as departmental, the way they do order, so that they will reduce their employment cost because it's on the high side on a yearly basis. Then also, we may mention of what we call terms of reference. So I don't get that terms of reference. Can you share more light, sir?
Okay, very beautiful answers with a very short response. The answer to your response is yes. Yes for everything. Yes. That's the answer. Like everything is just yes. Because this is a case study and you are arguing your points. However you think about it at that moment is the best way to go about it. Trust me. When you now get to after the exam, or you can now be listening to other opinions. But as far as the exam is concerned, and you are able to use and leverage the information provided, you are spot on. You are spot on. So that's just that. We are talking of term of reference. This is what a term of reference is talking about. Introduction and term of reference. We refer to the email received, state the key requirements in the terms of reference, state the objective, then the data that are given, how to do your professional skepticism, assumptions that are not stated, any other thing that you feel like stating, you can state them in the terms of reference. So the term of reference is just about telling us what you are required to do and stuff like that. I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
So any other question? Let's just ask our questions in the next couple of minutes. We are rounding up. So let's ask our question. Let me leave this there. Any other question? You have probably by 7:50.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so I've been trying to send this text, but no response. Okay, so what I want to ask now is, you're talking about finding and observation. Is it the same as finding and conclusion? Is it the same thing? That's the first area of concern. Also, in writing the report, also, do we need to separate it so each of them have separate subhead? Okay, like saying the finding, and I'm also saying conclusion and or finding, observation, and recommendation. Or should they all be on a paragraph?
No. Everything are separate. So in terms of conclusions and recommendations, we've done recommendations here. We've concluded on different things. So findings and recommendations are like the main work that you want to do. That carries that's like the main work you want to do. And it's in that findings and recommendations, it is more of discussion. And when you are doing discussion, sometimes you need to argue. And when you are arguing, you need to reach a conclusion within that argument. It's different from overall conclusion that you will likely make about how well the company is doing, or whether they want to do buy or sell, whatever they are buying, whatever they are selling. That conclusion is different. The current conclusion that we have been doing so far is conclusion on what we are talking about, right? And then the recommendations that we've been doing, they are still within findings and observations. All of these things that we are talking about are still within findings and observations. Conclusions and recommendations that are like conclusions and recommendations that are different from that are like the next thing in the report, like 4.0. Please mute your mic. Conclusion, and recommendation. These ones are about the overall reports. This is overall report writing. This is about the overall report. If the financial health of the company is fine, state it in your conclusion. So this is about the overall report. If there is a buy or if there is an acquisition that needs to occur, you need to state it as part of your recommendation, whether for the company that wants to acquire to go on with the acquisition or not. And that's the main conclusion and recommendation. The rest that we've been doing are around our arguments within the findings and observation. Findings and observation is talking about the main things that we've read in the case study and what we saw, the discussion around it. I hope that answers your question.
I have a question, please.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Okay. Under introduction, can you please mention what the content of the introduction should be? I was able to get we referred to your email, and then we also mentioned assumptions. Please, what else should be in the introduction?
So I think there's a template for that I've shared. I can still see if I can share it on this particular Google Sheet chat. Can I share? I'm not so sure I can update. I can upload. What's it called? Okay, so what I can do right away is to quickly put these things on on Google Sheets. I said Google Sheets. Google to upload them on a drive and just share with us. Does that make sense?
Yes, please.
So let me just quickly update them on a drive and just share with us. Try. Okay.
Please include the Word document too.
Okay. We can. Yes.
Well, great.
Please go ahead.
The loan that is not.
We mentioned something around the loan now. We said we can't use the loan yet until we have more information.
Okay.
Yes, boss. Is that the final question? Any other question from anybody? Are we still asking questions? Okay, if there is no question, let's just wait. Let me upload. Oh, somebody was saying something around wider context. Could you please shed more light? Which one should come first between business analysis and financial analysis? I think I would prefer financial analysis to come first. But whichever one you can do first, please go ahead and do, because it's still you analyzing the company and there's no mark for the arrangement per se. So there's no need to struggle with which one should come first. Whichever one that you can do first, please get it done first. But
Mr. Qudus, I have a
whole
question.
idea of this planning, please, before you ask your question, the whole idea of this planning is so that by the time you want to write your report itself, everything you just need to come and be doing. By the time you get to, let me share my screen. By the time you get to say you want to come to writing your exam, you see all these spaces that you've left. You've done these ones that I said they are just formatted. Business evaluation, strengths. What you just need to come and be doing is to come to this place, pick a strength, innovative workforce, pick the guy, put it here, and then explain. BP, one of BP's greatest strengths is its innovative workforce. So innovative workforce. And so and the next thing you want to do is to quickly go to the case study. Where did you see where you mentioned about innovative workforce? You come to it. We've highlighted them, so it is easy to come to innovative workforce. This is it. Strategy. This people. This is it. Then you can just bring something around this. And just bring something around this guy and include it in your story. Though there are more better ways to put it though, depending on the full case study itself. Innovative workforce. One of BP's greatest strengths is its innovative workforce, which then people are responsible for. We are transparent, authentic, and take responsibilities. So you talk more about this and how it can help BP. Right? This is another. Then the next thing is you want to come and take something under weakness. You want to come and take something under weakness that they said weakness. no room for offline marketing. So the way you want to do this strength, you now advise BP to leverage. BP should consider leveraging its workforce on so and so opportunities. So you find an opportunities that can go with this. You advise BP to leverage its innovative workforce. So strength should be going with opportunities, and then weaknesses should be going with also advice. Weaknesses should be going with advice. No room for offline marketing. BP currently do not have room for offline marketing, and this can be a reason, or this can be one of the reasons for its shrink revenue recorded during the year under review. BP should consider offline marketing strategy, leveraging the so and so, and you move on like that. I hope you get what I'm trying to do. So this is what you want to do. The reason why you've first highlighted everything out is so that by the time you want to write, you'll be able to write more on those things. So that's just it. I hope we get that point. So yeah, let's just continue with asking our questions. Okay. Thank you very much, Dan Femi. So and that's one of the reasons why they've advised us to actually read outside the scope, and that's one of the reasons why we tell you to read outside the scope of everything, and then wider context is you being able to relate with whatever that is going on outside your environment. I think Mr. Ayomedia has tried as much as possible to relate that, so everyone else too, it is advisable that you try as much as possible to read more about the external environment and be able to relate it when you are discussing. But it comes in within your discussion. It's not as if it comes in separately. Everything you are writing comes in within your discussion. Any final question before I take my leave? You don't necessarily need to put a SWOT analysis table as an appendix, but if you want to do that too, it is easy for you because we've done a condensed version of this SWOT analysis. So that is also easy for you, but you don't necessarily need to do that because appendix is just what you are using to refer to something. If you are not using it, you are not using it. So yeah. Any final question before we call it a day? Okay, sorry. Let me just.
So how can we get the document for some of us?
That's what I want to do now. Share link.
Okay, sir.
That's what I want to do now. Change link. Yeah, copy it down. So I've shared the link. I've shared the link on the platform. So for those of us that are still here, we can have it. We can access it from there. If there is no final question, thanks you all for coming. Best of luck in our respective exams. All the very best.
I have a question. Hello.
Please go ahead. Just let it be brief.
Okay.
As brief as you can.
Okay. All right. The methodology and procedure. So what I have under this is basically what the requirement is. Okay, or rather, what will be answering in the requirements, like financial and business analysis. And then the second requirement, whatever it is that we're expected to do. So those are just the only things I have. But I want to know if there is any other thing under methodology and procedure.
You are expected to do, really. So, yeah. Are we fine?
No, sorry, I missed what you said, please.
I said that's just it. Those are the things we are expected to do, really. But I've shared the format. Let's just follow the format for all those questions regarding methodology and procedures and stuff like that. Any final word?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you too for joining.
Okay, final is just to appreciate you for your time, at least the concern and every contribution from you and the team that created this platform for us to all learn, and the interest you guys have in us to passing the exams. For some of us, it's actually been the blocking stop for us to move on from the Ican exam, and by God's grace, I believe this is the last
By
that
God's
I'm going
grace,
to partake
yeah.
in. And for everyone writing the final, I believe that you're going to make it once and for all. So we really, on behalf of everyone, we really appreciate you. We thank you and the teams that are all involved in this arrangement. So thank you very much, and may
welcome,
God in
sir.
His infinite mercy reward you abundantly. Thank you
Amen.
very
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you very much, sir. We can all follow me on LinkedIn. I post frequently on stuff like this, and we can access some of my posts on LinkedIn. Once you type Iwelabi on LinkedIn, you're gonna see me. You see some of my posts on accounting standards and what have you. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And yeah, over to you, Sharon.
Okay, so thanks everyone for your time. We'll upload the recorded section on our YouTube page. So once it's out, my other members and I think accounting job of they'll get the link, and they'll also share with their community members to have access to the recorded section of this video later today. Sorry, hopefully before tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Please, Mr. Qudus, is the document shared already?
Yeah, I've sent the link. I've sent the link. We can also follow finance business partners.
Our mail,
is on this chat. Is on this chat. We can also follow finance business partner on LinkedIn. I'm sure they will also share it with us. We can follow accounting job up as well. I'm sure they will share it with us. So yeah, all the very best in our exams. And thank you, Sharon. Thanks the other members of the finance business partner and accounting job.
Name again. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
My LinkedIn name is Balogun Qudus. Balogun Qudus. Abi, you should just check for Iwelabi on LinkedIn. Just type Iwelabi one way or the other. You get to see me.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, I'm off. Thank you very much, guys.